think we'll get the ball rolling,
Thank you very
honestly.
much. Let's get started.
So let's go from top to bottom. How about that?
That
So
works for me.
start with Arm, right? Arm, you ready?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, okay. Let's go. Tram station. Should we have a vote on tram station?
What, to keep it?
Yes.
I think that's up to the maptainer, in my opinion.
Map.
Personally, I've been kind of burned by the fact that we have 5 maps. I don't know if you know, but if a contributor wants to add something to the game, they have to map it into all 5 maps. And if they update the maps, then you have to redo the map edit on one of the maps. And that makes it incredibly hard. So I think if I wanted to talk to the maptainer about doing something, I would talk about lowering the map count probably to 4, so it's easier to actually contribute to the game. But I don't care about Tram Station in of itself. I think that it's been around in its infancy and it can see more time. Thank you.
Okay, and then we go to Sticky.
Hello. I don't think that Tram needs a vote on whether it's removed or not. I think the amount of work that a mapper puts into a map kind of justifies the map existing itself. I think that there's probably, and this is something that the Codebus has been discussing a little bit as well. I think it would honestly be better for maintainability if the maps were allowed to diverge a little bit more. So if Arm wants to code something and add something in, I think it's better that that's in 1 or 2 maps, and then the maps can kind of deviate a little bit more, so there's a slightly different experience. I also think that our most popular map at the moment is Metastation, I think pretty objectively. And I think the reason it's the most popular is because it's the oldest and most refined kind of, obviously Box Station has existed longer, but Metastation has had the most refinement, most lessons learned, most adaptation over time. And I think if you gave Tram Station another year and a half, it'll probably reach that state eventually as well, especially considering the dedication of the mapper that's actually maintaining it. So I think that obviously there's going to be an upper limit to how many maps we have, but I'm completely fine with Tram staying, and I don't think we need a player vote to decide. Maybe if we were to add another one, we would rotate one out and keep them in the wings there. But I think it should rely more on how many mappers are willing to genuinely maintain their maps, as opposed to a player-driven vote or a headmin decision.
Okay. Did someone drop out of the call? I thought we had 4 people. We have Arm. We got Sticky. We got Lukas. There was someone else, right? Who am I?
Goof is playing D&D.
left.
Oh, Simica.
Yeah, they left.
Oh, though, I think a worker called them. Oh, that's unfortunate. An employee called them. And Okay.
Right. I think it's me now. So, Tram is a shit map. I don't like it, but I respect there are people who do enjoy it, and I think that's something we need to look at in the grand scheme of things, is that there are always people who like these maps. And even though it seems kind of dumb, the most fair way to incorporate them is just to have the vote system we're currently using maybe a bit more refined. So you never have an option between like Tram Station, some other crap map. Just always have like one popular map, one meh map, and one shit map in rotation. There's no way to do this objectively, of course, but I just don't think we should remove Tram because people do like it. People think it's a good map, people have fun on it. If it gets voted in sometimes, that's A-okay.
People do like it. It's like 3rd, isn't it? That's where it was, right? But it's kind of polarizing, right?
Yeah, but I feel like if it still manages
polarized
to vote,
maps.
Yes. We have a lot of things that are polarizing within the game. For example, I don't know, top of my head, stun batons. Stun batons are incredibly polarizing. People either love them and think, this is the only way for Sec to be strong enough to exist, or people hate them and they're like they're too powerful. They make the game a cakewalk. Does that mean we should remove them? Not really.
Yes.
At the end of the day, one thing we have to look at is balancing everyone's fun. And I think if people have to do one tram round, which they might not enjoy every like I don't know, like once or twice a day, whereas people who may not enjoy Delta have to play that like 6 or 7 or 8 times a day, I think it's very fair to keep tram in.
All right. Is that you have anything else to add, or can I move on to Keith?
That was Keith.
Yeah, what's up? That's me. Hey.
That was Keith. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Awesome. Awesome and good.
That was a
Damn.
moment. I
Thanks,
think I
Sacko.
put in my Lukas B. Dell for from Hostmain to head of Janny.
I thought you were like American. Okay, but you're a Brit man.
Yeah, I think I should probably start by saying my name before the next one starts, just in case.
I think the moderator is doing an excellent job, and I appreciate and love them.
Okay.
Truly
Okay.
American moderation.
So, what to do about LRP? Any opinions on changing LRP? Any changes? Is it in a good state, a bad state? What do you think?
Thanks for asking, Thanks for asking, Sacko. That's an excellent question. I want to just like delete honestly 70% of the rules. We have so many rules that just reiterate what other rules say. Like one thing I kind of liked was MSO posted that thread where he was showing the 2014 rules. Did you know Silicons had like 3 rules, and one of them was like follow your laws in good faith, and the other 2 were just clarifications. We could go back to those times. Silicons don't have to be a headache to moderate and play, and this pretty much applies for a lot of our rules. So make the rules shorter. LRP is better for it. Do the same with the roleplay rules too, even though that's out of this question. And thank you, mic drop. Also, I'm Armhulen.
Okay, Sticky dude.
I, Stickymayhem, would like to reply directly to Armhulen because his take is incredibly shit.
Nice.
Deleting 70% of the rules doesn't make sense. Back in 2014, when I also played Boomer, you don't get to be the only one who plays that card. The rules were simpler because the admins had total control, almost no accountability, basically got to do whatever they wanted. Headmins weren't elected, and on top of all of that, it was a shit show, clique fest, and the server had much lower population. So when the server's got lower population, not only is admin coverage worse, but also the same fewer admins were kind of dealing with the same fewer players. So the reason the rules have grown over time is because we have an admin team of like 100 fucking people, and we have like, I don't know, 500 players who regularly kind of cycle through the servers on a weekly basis, let's say, maybe more. And it's got to the point where there's no way to handle things in any amount of time. There's no way to give transparency to players, and there's no way for admins to be sure that they're following the hugely complex rules that make up SS13 accountably without having some kind of rule set in place that goes through precedents. And yes, it sucks that you have to run through all of the rules, but the rules are not there for a player to memorize every single line of them and then obey them. The rules are there to give admins clear things to point to say, you stepped over the line far enough that this is something we've seen before and you should be shit canned for it. And more so, I think that it's important that we acknowledge that you don't really need to read the rules to be a successful player on SS13 and not get banned. You just need to not be an asshole. Like, the only people who really read into like the direct letter of every rule are the people who know that they push up against the line a lot, and they need to know where that line is so that they can avoid getting banned but can still be as big of a cunt as they possibly can within the rules. When it comes to silicon policy, same exact problem, just less about banned and more about people interpreting silicons. There's too many silicon players now. Back in 2014, there were like 5 AIs, and they all played in reasonably good faith. But now you're gonna have fucking dozens of them. So yeah, I think the rules need to be there. I think it makes players more accountable, and no one actually needs to know all of the rules to play on the server without getting banned. You just need to not be a cunt.
Honestly, I think that rules and accountability are not related very much at all. I mean, what makes admins more accountable is having systems where players can punish admins for doing bad things. That really doesn't have anything to do with the rules. You really want to live in a world where I have a 1920 by 1080 monitor and this entire silicon policy section I can't scroll through, like it can't have in one page. I mean, this is ridiculous. Nobody reads our rules, half because they don't need to, and half because expecting people to read this fucking document is retarded. Like, all of this is stupid as fuck. You don't. I
just said that
understand for
nobody reads
similar
our rules
rulings.
because. Sorry, go ahead.
Nah, it's whatever. Go ahead.
You just said nobody reads our rules because they don't really have to. That's kind of the point. Like, the accountability comes down to the admin, and the reason I say the rules and the accountability are related is because you can see what the kind of precedent that other admins have set, that headmins have set, and the only accountability that admins really have is from the headmins. So I don't think it makes sense to say they're completely unrelated. Like, you can point to, and we've seen millions of instances of this happen over the last few years as we've got better and better. You can see admins who make a shit ruling. A player comes to the forums, and then someone says, "Oh, actually, we've had this before," and the headman's decided that actually it should have gone the other way, and the player gets unbanned, and the admin gets told that they did something dumb, and then we resolve it quickly instead of every single thing requiring a direct decision from a headman without any precedent, causing whatever drama because there's no actual answer in quotes. I think it's just a waste of time to not have the precedence there. It just saves everyone, a painful experience.
Let me just quickly chime in as a newer player and not one of you two absolute boomers.
All
I
right.
feel like if you look at the rules, they've evolved over time because there has been a need for them to evolve. There have been many situations where, a rule wasn't enforced correctly, or there has been need to put a rule like don't do this. We will now enforce it, and I think that's perfectly okay. If we look at why this has happened, it's because the servers evolved over time. New rules for new people, etc., etc. Having more rules isn't a bad thing, especially when we have specific situations that they enforce. For example, a controversial rule at the moment is the racism rule. A lot of people would argue that it would be enforced under Rule 1, the bigotry rule, I mean, sorry. But to put it simply, it wasn't. That's a situation like that is like why we have and need these new rules.
I have one follow-up question to put to Arm, which is, if you were to delete 70% of the rules, would you expect all 100 admins across multiple different LRP servers to come to the same conclusions without that rule set backing them up? Or would they all come to different conclusions, depending on their personal styles?
I think they would come to different conclusions like they do right now,
Okay,
even with the large set.
So do you think that's actually a positive outcome of deleting the majority of the rules? Because the result is going to be that players don't know whether anything they're doing is breaking the rules.
I think that changes so little. I'm going to mute this guy. I think that changes so little about how admins rule. Like, even with these billion pages, admins still rule in ways that players do not understand. The only thing you're actually losing by having this massive rule set is the fact that nobody wants to fucking read this shit. It's just like, this is just something admins have to go to cite random things when they could cite, don't be a dick, play the game nice. There you go, boom.
I think.
Oh, sorry.
I just want to say two real quick things. One, if you actually care about this policy, then my experimental anarchy server is definitely for you, Arm, and you should probably back that policy. Yeah. And number two, Book asked a question. You already said nobody but line-towing cunts reads the rule set. Do you expect all admins to read all rules and precedents? Absolutely fucking yes, because admins have a responsibility to understand the rules in a way players don't. That's the price you pay for having the increased privilege and power. And you're a moderator. Read the fucking rules. You should be reading them to execute them. If you're not doing that today, then I would call you a bad admin, Book. So.
Sticky. I've never read the rules. I don't read this, and you know what? None of my bans get overturned. It's because I don't need the rules, and neither do the players, and honestly, neither do the admins, who are still ruling in various different ways. I mean, we're not going to fix the problem.
You're going to tell me you've never had a ban overturned once or a note overturned once, Arm? Are you committing to that?
No.
Okay, so then clearly you've got it wrong before.
Ooh, you didn't literally get every single ban you've ever made overturned. Like, I'm not.
So then what's your point? You're saying that you don't need it.
My point is that I am a good admin and I have not read the rules.
Okay, fine. I think you should read the rules, but then I don't know how much you actually moderate on the servers these days anyway.
Well, okay. Let me just quickly interject here before this turns into a full-out war. I do
Arm.
think...
I'm gonna fuck you hard. Sorry,
that
go
the
ahead.
admins should have to read the rules because
Yeah.
once again they're admins and they should have to be enforcing them correctly. It's one of the most the situation we currently have is we have banned bot admins and non-banned bot admins because some of the admins read and enforce the rules and some of them don't. This creates a huge split between players and the admins because there's no consistent enforcement. You can literally go on one server, do one thing, go on another server, do the exact same thing, and go on the third server, it'll be permabanned. It's completely silly just to think they shouldn't read rules and we should simplify them when we've had like a lot of the current rules come up and be used for situations to get rid of shitters.
I think we've hit bedrock on this issue, but
I agree with Sticky.
Fair.
Yeah, let's move on to Keith. If Keith has any more to say, I know he chimed in a bit,
Well,
right?
the only thing I have to say is I think the rules are fine. I think if anything we shouldn't be going down to less rules because if that's the case they're not enforced, which creates a negative experience.
I think I made my points. I don't need closing.
And Rave might be joining soon. He
Nice.
said he's going to be coming. So
I'd
We
also
might-
I would just like to end by saying I love Arm very, very much.
Oh yeah, no, I love
Arm
Sticky.
Arm is number 1.
Yes.
That's true. You heard it. Sticky just said.
He's second only to Trailer Zab.
Okay,
You bitch.
where's Balthazar on that? Yeah.
What?
Azalar is a shitter, and no one should give him any attention.
Okay.
Arm is
Fair.
the ego, Tralazab is the super ego, and Balzilar is the id.
Okay, Lucas, LRP, anything more to add?
I don't know. I think LRP is in a fine state at the moment. Like I don't really see anything particularly wrong with it. I think it would be nice to in some certain
Oh god,
cases have a bit more enforcement.
this was about LRP.
But other than that, yeah,
Fuck
no
you, Arm.
LRPs. LRP's in a really solid place, I think. It's one of our most popular server types. People clearly love it, and we're clearly doing something right.
There's Rave. We're talking about LRP. One sec. We'll get you in after Keith. Keith, any more to say?
And no, thank you. That was it.
Okay. Rave. Opinions on LRP. How are we doing with it? Anything to add? Any rules to add? Any rules to subtract? You think enforcement is consistent? Floor is yours. Thank you.
I think the landscape of how LRP is doing has been something that's kind of been getting carried out on the forums. I can't remember whose name it was, but we had this massive peanut that was just ongoing, and it got a lot of the maintainers riled up. And some of the maintainers have like very strong opinions on the issue of quote unquote like gearing up before your round start or like during your round. And so rule 4 is like such a sacred thing that like no one really wants to like challenge. And so we're seeing like most of like the shaping and like criticism of LRP like from the code perspective, from the code level. Like, people really want their freedom. The administration like agrees with that, but there are people who feel very passionate about LRP and think that it's going in a direction since like the split that they don't think is like its best look, I guess. So the whole thing's tough, A, and then like B, like it's something that's almost like out of the hands of rule set at this point, because nobody's going to want to touch rule 4. That's going to be like dead in the water. And so as a result, we lose the two toolboxes in meta dorms, right? Little things, little bits and pieces kind of just get chipped away at it to reduce like loot. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's just like the whole state of things on it, really. And like, what the admin team can really do about it. Like, people like their time in the sun. The administration's willing to let that happen, but some people feel differently about it. I don't think there's much I'd touch about it as Headman, is I guess what I'm trying to get at.
I think Rave has I think that's a really interesting point. I think that I feel like at the moment, like Rave said, there's a lot of code solutions to like balancing the power level and kind of dictating behavior. And because the administration over the last few years in particular, because I remember back when we were far stricter on things like valid hunting and power gaming specifically, those are situations that are now starting to be solved by the code, which is I think part of why there's so much animosity between the players and coders, is because where before there was like this slightly softer level of power where admins would enforce, against valid hunting, and although you had the option that was accessible sometimes, you didn't get to abuse it every single round. But once we started allowing people to abuse it every single round, coders were forced to effectively balance it as if they were going to abuse it every single round. And I think
When-
this might. Sorry, Rave. Go ahead.
When you say every single round, that reminds me of like when I was first lurking this community, when I was first getting into this community, I saw like several clearly marked signposts that said, if you're doing the same murder bone gimmick over and over again, or even so far as to say like if you're murder boning every time you're antag, the administration can and will ask you to like vary it up and take a break. And since like reading that and then like going into the community proper and engaging people in like live conversation and stuff, I found that de-emphasized more and more, to the point where it seems like most people aren't willing to tell someone like, hey, knock it off. And there's like a very strong response like in opposition to that.
See, I think we agree on the problem, but I think we disagree on the solution, because I would say that I think the reason antags have been allowed to do that is because power gaming and valid hunting have become unrestricted effectively. The captain's allowed to grab a shotgun pretty much every single round, and although occasionally situations come up where someone overdoes it, overall everyone's allowed to kind of escalate their power level pretty quickly in a round to always be ready for antags. So the only option available to antags is to murder bone, because it's the safest option. You don't want to do some cool gimmick and spend an hour like I used to do building disposals loops that ended in the fucking emag crusher. Like you can't do that anymore because your round ends because some power gamer is just gonna fucking stomp you. And Watermelon's right, it is also the easiest way to have fun as an antag as well, but it is also the safest. So I think if you were to lower the ability, and I don't know if this is possible, but I think if you were to increase slightly our ability to administrate against valid hunting and power gaming, antagonists would feel like there's less necessity in doing the most optimized strategy every single round to enjoy the maximum amount of time as an antag. And I think that would actually maybe take some of the pressure off of the code base to feel like they have to balance everything constantly, because they can leave stuff that's too powerful in the game, and admins will seek out that 10-15% of people who overuse those powerful things in the game. Because ultimately, otherwise, we're just going to shave all the sharp edges off of the game and end up with something that's less fun for everyone and less opportunity for fun.
I totally agree with you. I just have concerns as to like how strong the community response in opposition to that has been. Like you gotta listen to what the people ask for to an extent. And a lot of people are just so against that idea that exactly what they're in the mood for that round is something that they can't have. And you see that on MRP a lot too. People just like get an idea of like what they want, and then every round they can get it, they commit to it, and that's how a lot of things go stale.
Also have a look at the antags themselves, because I feel like they're very problematic in terms of their objectives and the fact that green texting with them is never fun. You always get some absolutely unfun objective, like go steal the black box on the AI sat. Like, oh boy, can't wait to throw my round away because everyone will instantly know exactly what I'm doing, and I'll just get murdered.
And that's,
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so a lot of these things could be resolved by like actually tweaking antags themselves. This is obviously a code issue, I suppose. There's nothing we could do. But I feel like that's a huge reason why antags aren't fun, and people don't green text, because what's the point?
Well, yeah, I mean, isn't the real
necessary?
Yeah, the real red pill is to kind of just like let go of green text and like take it as a suggestion. Like, really, just if you're
The
trader,
green pill.
yeah, the green pill. Just like go make a death trap in main and just invite people to fall into it. Like, you don't have to go after that one random set of events that's been handed to you.
I feel like if the events were better, or if maybe they offered some kind of a reward or a
Biddle
incentive,
traders. Armhulen.
Let's go.
like
Yeah.
incentive or something to like get a grant. Maybe every 2 green texts you got an antag token or
Well,
something like that.
we've already got something in that. We've got contractors, which serves that kind of function, and no one plays it really that
Well,
often.
no. Well, that's not.
Contractors is fairly popular.
I
think.
love contractors, but I don't see it used very often.
It has
Contractors gets used on MRP all the time.
Yeah.
That
makes
sense,
sense,
right?
right?
Like the viability of going green text as an antag, because there's like if you give someone like I don't know every 2 green text to get an antag token, people rounds would be a lot more interesting because people wouldn't just go herd instant murder, but they might actually try and get some of their objectives done. Especially if like the objectives like get a certain amount of research or something that's pretty unfun like that. People would actually have to wait for the round to progress because now they have to grab that research and it won't get done.
I think one thing I think contractors is actually the landscape, to use Rave's word, to have this kind of discussion on, because I think the dichotomy between how contractors is really difficult and unfun on LRP and yet really interesting and fun on MRP is actually a really good demonstration of what changing the power level and restriction from a roleplay perspective can do to the same code, right? There's no difference between contractor on one server or the other, but the way people behave and the way people and the rule set changes the power level and the ability of that antag to have fun. I think that's actually a really good like single example of why the rule set can have a huge impact on the actual gameplay of a particular antag, and why maybe code solutions, unfortunately, they're the only solution at the moment because the codebase. I'm not saying this is a criticism, but codebase is not Codebus is not beholden to the players in much of the same way that the admins are. So where we get pushback, they can just push things through and say this is how the game is now. And so they have their own power structure that isn't accountable to players other than through the feedback that they do take sometimes.
I want to interject here once again and say a lot of this stuff on LRP as well. It's you've got to look at individual server culture to determine how effective an antag will be. On a place like Terry, when you have like max sec every single round, the moment someone goes on comms, contractor, you've got like was it 9 people or something sweeping mates with like just sweeping mates all together, looking for this one very some may say sus individual or whatever it is. It's just it's got this real level of difficulty because of this. Like I don't know what it's like on Sybil, or I don't really know what it's like on Manual, but on Terry having this overwhelming sec presence definitely does hurt a lot of the antags because you just feel like you can't do anything. There's too many. You kill one, another 10 show up.
I mean, isn't that a bit of a play to win mentality?
Well, what do you mean?
So like the way that I see like an ideal like sec antag interaction is like ultimately a cat and mouse engagement. Like if you know that you're hunting someone and you also know that like the round is going to be like, let's say like an hour, like do you like burn through your content immediately, or do you like maybe implant the guy and let them go, et cetera, like there are a lot of ways to slowly ramp up things with antags that like keep them in the round and like keep them doing stuff. But I guess that runs into the whole like arms race like issue. I'm just saying that like once you complete your sec objectives of like getting the antags taken care of, like usually the round kind of just like becomes really empty and pointless, right?
Let me just quickly say something here because I've gotten in trouble and I've been boinked. I've had long debates with admins over this. That it's dereliction of duty as a host, for example, to not valid hunt a guy. Now
that's nuts.
I've actually been in trouble with this because some chef spawned a crate in his like kitchen, had like an antag loot crate. I basically went, okay guys, chef is a traitor, whatever. I've taken like all his dangerous stuff. He says he won't leave the kitchen. Don't go into the kitchen for the loot or he'll kill you. Right? And I had AI screeching at me, the chef is go kill the chef. I had captain
that's the-
screeching, go kill the chef. I had everyone screeching at me, and then I got boinked for it. Hey, why'd you let the chef go?
Well, I mean, so I see the AI and captain screaming at you probably doesn't. I don't think it factors in at all. But if that, I don't think. Yeah. Wait, did you
very
get a
long
note for
boink.
this or a
No, I
ban?
didn't get a note. I just got a very
Just a
long
conversation.
discussion. And I've had this before where, like, let's say an ant gets valid hunted. So, like, I found a heretic with his hand out, for example, his green hand out. And I was like, well, okay, it's pretty unfair. He died to a space cop. You know, I'm going to go get him to medbay, get him revived, and let him go back into the round. And this is another thing that I got boinked for.
Yeah,
I
fuck
don't
that
think
shit.
that's. Yeah, I don't
I
think
mean,
that's reasonable
Because,
at all.
like,
Admins-
and I mean, like, all I'm going to say is, how do you expect players to change their behavior if admins are enforcing it? Like,
I
if they're
100%.
enforcing valid hunting.
Yeah, you're right. Those admins are idiots, and they shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, you
I
should
agree.
you should be able to perform a job poorly within reason. Like
Mhm.
obviously there's like a level of like maliciously bad you could do, but like you can just be kind of bad at your job on purpose and have that be like legit. You're literally thinking about how your character should be and like acting accordingly. Like for someone to be like that's not how to play this game is so fucking crazy. Like why not just have a kill streak? Like
Well,
if we're
you know-
gonna act that way.
As I say, this is the issue, though, because if I've definitely tried to put behavior like this in where you don't instantly valid hunt the antag, or let's say you revive the antag or something. Like at one point we revive the antag, we go, all right, guys, he's gonna run around halls and kill people who valid hunt him. Please stay in your departments. He's got death 9 nights if he decides to rush into a department. And once again, I've had no notes, but I got boinked to it, and I had to explain myself. Hey, why aren't you instantly valid hunting this antag, and why are you letting, you know, like these 5 groups of assistants and the chaplain and whatever else deal with it? Because
That's crazy.
Yeah,
It's
I think
just-
I think that there's I mean, like, I think there's a level of helping Antag that comes under our helping Antag rules, but generally I think that whoever it was blinking you over that is an idiot. And the goal of security, which is the goal on Terry, Terry's my main server. The goal of security every round is to make the round extended as fast as possible, and then get bored and twiddle their thumbs. Like they're literally trying to
But
make
the
themselves
goals-
have no fun anymore, which is a really stupid goal and system. Like we should encourage. We should we should prevent recidivism. We should reform antags. You know, put tracking implants in them. Let them play in permabreak. Don't be surprised or pissed off if they break out somehow.
Yeah.
Like that makes a better story. And Lukas, by the way, is literally like one of the only head of security, if not the only head of security, who does play by what we're talking about. Like he is uniquely kind to antags in a way that makes the round better.
Thank you very much for that. But it's sometimes hard to be kind to antags when I've got my own officers
Next time, yeah, of
arguing
course.
with me, like, kill this antag, kill him. Like, no, bro,
Demote them.
It's more
Fucking
fun to
demote them.
throw. I think I was playing with, I think it was CJ and some other people, and they were
God.
antags. So what I did was I was like, all right, I'll just throw all 5 of these guys into perma.
Awesome.
What's the worst that could happen? And then like I was
Yeah.
having people yell at me like, oh, you should have killed her. Like
Yeah, like,
yanking their hair.
Imagine like the villain in Die Hard getting like murked by Bruce Willis in like the first act. Like, what do you do with the rest of the fucking movie? Right? Like,
I think
You
we've got the
gotta-
point out of this discussion.
Yeah,
Not to
yeah.
cut you off, but I think we
yeah,
seem
you
to be in
got it.
agreement. So, Sacko, do you want to lead the way?
Okay. You guys are done. That went on for a while, so
Yeah.
I was thinking of interjecting in like a minute. So this is
Please
great
do.
that you wrapped it up. So, okay. So next one is MRP. Thoughts on MRP? The state of MRP.
How
Armhulen?
scandalous.
Oh boy.
What do you think on it?
Rave?
I mean, I play MRP not that often, but I do come by. And one thing I'd like to say is I really like running events on there because people like going with it, and in that way, I like that about it. But as for what I'd change, I feel like I'm not that like properly educated on like the issues. I feel like I would probably break more than I fix if I just go into that. But yeah, I guess I'd have to do some scouting around for that. That's all I have to say. Peace.
All right, that's fair. You know your limits. That's fair. Okay, Sticky.
I do not know my limits and will make extremely firm statements on MRP. I think it's good. I think
I
generally
like it.
speaking, the admin base has built up really nicely there. They've got enough. They've got a decent amount of coverage. They seem to be more consistent than LRP rulings across the servers, which is cool. Obviously, it's only one server and one culture. I think that the manual chord, while in the past has resulted in some like cliqueiness that makes it a little bit harder to penetrate for new players, ultimately it seems to have been a positive thing for the community, for them to have their own kind of little back and forths and stuff. And yeah, I play very rarely on MRP, but I do run events, same as Arm. And I think the reason that me and Arm are both probably LRP players who are drawn to run events on an MRP server is that the MLPers just engage with events way more. Like they're just way more willing to not run through whatever content you're trying to put down, scrape all of the like power gamey loot or whatever they can get out of it, and then run away with it to go murder antags with. Like they will engage with things. You can actually make like cool narratives and stories. I've had some real good events on there that weren't really possible on any other server. And yeah, I think everyone there's been doing a good job. I think Rave is probably a big part, as one of the big MRP.
Yeah, he's got a good idea
Yeah,
for
like,
what is needed.
I think Rave has done a great job adminning there as well. So cool.
All right, that's all for you.
Okay, I guess it's on to me now.
All right,
Nice.
yeah, Keith.
So here's the thing, MRP. I don't know. I don't play on MRP myself. I've only got like 20 hours on it. But before even running for head admin, what I did was I reached out to a lot of the MRP players, had like a few of the MRP admins. I was asking a few questions because I wanted to really get a feel of how players from Manual are feeling. Because I'm obviously a Terry player, and I got some really interesting responses because what it seems that a lot of people are feeling is that there isn't enough RP going on, and that people from other servers can come onto Manual and somehow do RP in a sense where it's not quite MRP, but it doesn't quite break the rules, so they're not getting banned by the admins. And a lot of the players believed this was due to a lack of power invested in the admins to deal with these issues. Now, I'm not really a... So, dealing with this issue, I feel like we should probably, I don't know, just hand the Manual admins the full keys to enforce rules on Manual if that's not what's already happening, because a lot of these players had the same concerns, and these were vastly different players who I met in vastly different places, and they all seem to share this regard that the level of RP just isn't that great there.
I might have something to add to that, which is I think I know the problem because I've seen it, and I didn't bring it up because I don't have a solution for it, but maybe Rave might. Players from the other servers will occasionally join Manual, and the key word here is they try to roleplay, but unfortunately they don't know how. They're not very good at it. It's really embarrassing to look at, and I think it's perceived by the MRPers as trolling or poor behavior or shitters, when actually they're kind of trying and they just don't get it because this is the only experience they've had of a roleplay anything before. I think that forms a pretty large base of that complaint, and the reason the admins don't do anything about it is not because they don't have the power, it's because there is no minimum roleplay standard in terms of competence, only in terms of roleplaying in good faith, as I understand it. So it's kind of hard to ban people and say, hey, I'm really sorry, you're too stupid to roleplay on our servers, even though they may very well be too stupid to roleplay on the server. That's kind of what I've seen. I don't know if Rave agrees.
Should there be like guidelines or something? Like,
well, so I mean, here's the thing: like pointing the finger at fail RP is incredibly cringe. Like you only do it as a joke. Like, and you're joking about someone else pointing the fail RP finger. Like that's how far you want it away from you. So I think Sticky brings up like a really interesting kind of like baseline concept, which is theoretically one could try to enforce like a standard of RP, and that's like a base of kind of like as low as you can kind of like get with it, of like a mandated thing. There's been talk about the idea from like multiple people of the idea of like just trying to put together some sort of guide to RP. the wiki. We have it. It's great. You can store guides on it. Part of the thing is that people don't feel comfortable taking something that's supposed to be this like broad, unlimited creative process and saying like you must do it this way. And then like B, if you tell people how you do things, it ends up with a lot of people doing things the way that you do them, which is something that can be seen with like murder bone gimmicks as well. It's just natural to kind of have copycats as people are sort of like learning stuff. So that puts like a greater responsibility on like what you do with a guide, because like if you do it wrong, you know, you're kind of like ill-equipping people for these sorts of like culture clashes that Sticky's describing. And that's like the only kind of solution I've really been able to come up with. But I thought the idea of like any sort of like guide just like runs the risk of being prescriptive, and I saw it as like a bad alternative. But I think that might be something to try before we have to venture into the realms of mandated, you know, minimum RP standards.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I just to
agree.
be sorry, I just want to be super clear. I don't think that like we should be punishing people for fail RP. I was being entirely descriptive, not prescribing a solution there.
Yeah.
But I have thought of something which is, I think part of the reason why this community struggles with this problem in particular is that there's no way for a player to OOCly give advice on how to roleplay properly in game, right? We don't have local
my God.
OOC, and I hate the concept of local OOC. But I feel like that would help the problem, because the existing player base would at least have some channel for educating people who join the server and don't really know what they're doing. So I feel like maybe, I don't know, like a one-to-one LOOC where only the person you're speaking to can see it. You can like ping them with like a like teaching OOC. Like you can direct message one person, has to be OOC, no IC content, same rules as like OOC, but just like to that one person, and tell them, hey, by the way, like maybe don't use smiley faces or whatever. That's it's a big example, but yeah.
So I
So
just want
like,
to quickly say,
no, you go for it. It's
Thank-
your turn on the mic.
Yeah, please go.
Thank you so much. I just want to say here though, it's like although I don't have a solution, I don't feel like either of us do. I feel because of the players themselves find this as quite a large issue. I feel like it's something that definitely should like at least get a glance or like a look at it, because if a lot of players, because I'm talking a lot, I'm obviously not going to dox my DMs with anyone, but a lot of players have just found this to be annoying, irritating, not wanting to play because of it, moving to other places, which isn't ideal. Like that maybe I'm thinking mentor system, maybe TOOC sounds very good as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just I feel like there should be something to maybe help, or maybe the guide, as Rave said, something to slowly help adjust this issue, which so many people clearly see as an issue.
So, I mean, I think you guys are touching on something that maybe you haven't had a lot of opportunities to witness, which is that the amount of communication between admins and players on MRP is naturally higher because of like the amount of investigation and the amount of stuff like, you know, using an emoticon in speech. Like you don't have a TOOC to communicate that, so you help, hey, so and so is using this, I get that boink, I contact them, I say, hey, you know, you can't put emoticons in it. And while that's like a dumb little mundane interaction, it's still a moment where staff is communicating with a player who's adapting to a new space, and there are real opportunities there to increase rapport, kind of like clarify anything if they're having like a difficult moment, and really end that ticket with them feeling better about the environment that they're in and feeling like, you know, like more comfortable, like they can have like a more enjoyable experience. And they're used to talking to staff, which is really beneficial. We don't want to actually give people heart attacks when they hear the boink. Like you should just be ready to talk to the DM, not the cops.
Yeah, some people are pretty ice cold when start boinking people. It's kind
Let's talk about mentors. Okay, Sticky wants to talk about mentors. Let's talk about mentors.
I think mentors are a great idea that Wriggle brought up in chat just now. He said we could maybe, or they said we could have MRP mentors who help new players, something similar to TGMC perhaps. I've not played TGMC in a long time. I might go over there just to see what the actual like role play mentors looks like. I always understood that as like a game system helper, but as a role play helper, that makes so much fucking sense. and there's so many people in manual who would, I'm sure, embrace that responsibility because they're a pretty helpful and community who like accumulating cute titles, I'm sure.
Okay, so the only problem I have with mentors is that if someone is a good mentor, why wouldn't they just be an admin? That's the part I don't get.
I don't know that the skill set overlaps into. Sorry, Sacko.
No, I was just going to say that.
Nothing.
Yeah, I was just about to say sorry. That the thing with mentors though is it can be a stairway for players who maybe haven't been the best through their SS13 career. Like I've spoken to quite a few players as well who are like they have a lot of notes. They have a lot of like bad notes. They've been like a shitter, but they really want to improve. And like they might have like thousands of hours on the game experience, which they'd be able to help other players with, but they're never going to get admin. It isn't even like in their mind because they're just too bad with notes. So having something like a mentor system, maybe just as like a stepping stone for people to help them become better in the community and less shitters.
But that seems kind of like, so now it's like a thing for people to become admins from. So it is kind of like we don't need mentors because we have admins.
I don't
but
think
in
it
the
needs to be
sense
so
that we're
closely tied to
using
admins.
them as stepping stones for something more. Like, why don't we just have I mean, shit,
I know why.
know.
Because admins are expected to observe in a lot of games. That's kind of the fundamental problem, right? Like a mentor is going to walk around. They're going to be a highly active player who's playing the game, and then they'll bump into someone and say, "Hey, by the way, maybe you should be thinking about this or that." Like they'll have less responsibility, and you can throw the role around like candy. And we're not talking about mentors in the iteration that they have now, where they have like admin observer kind of powers or whatever, like or access to ASA. It's purely just a marker of, hey, like I've decided to take it upon myself to bring new people into the community and teach people how to roleplay a little bit better, and maybe I'll reach out to them on like the manual cord to like rope them in and chat to them about what they could be doing better. Like it's like it's kind of like a cultural ambassador more than like an admin,
Yeah, community ambassador. Well, I mean,
Community
admins though.
yeah.
We
that's
like
us.
Yeah, but
admins
admins have too much shit to deal with.
We don't have too much shit to deal with.
I mean, on MRP, like Rave just described, having to deal with every fucking smiley face, like that's something that can easily be a mentor just going, "Hey, buddy, like maybe don't do that. This is how we do it here." Like,
so they are moderating.
They're not moderating; they're advising. They don't have any. They're not banning or kicking.
So they're
anyone.
advisors.
Yeah, they're advisors. Sure, why not? They're mentors. They're mentoring. That's why the word is mentor and not admin. They don't have any admin powers. They're just there as like a little. Maybe they've got the ability to like poke someone in an OOC private chat, or maybe we make that TOOC accessible to everyone. Who knows? But I think maybe that should be accessible to everyone. I think I think the way community ambassador, the way Rave put it, is not a terrible idea.
I mean, I generally see like most of the people who do like any form of contribution to the code base or the community through their time and efforts to be like community ambassadors after a fashion.
We should have an in-game rank for contributing to the GitHub. That would be juicy.
Yeah.
Imagine the coder.
These are all very rough ideas and not policies. So I think probably
Riddle
just
says test merging. That might be a good thing. Like just give it a trial run.
Test merge what? A concept?
Mentors?
Mentor system.
Society.
Mentor systems for like a month or something. Yeah.
Yeah. I really hope someone's up for doing all the work on that.
Yeah, that's a huge amount of work.
It's beyond me.
The minimum time for a mentor, I could code and have mentors. I don't know about how good it would be, because I mean, it'd be about security. But the thing is, I could code it. It'd be test merged, but it'd have to go on for like a fat month for people to get a good idea on if mentors are actually good or not.
I think we can leave this on the table, but I don't know that any of us have a clear solution. Yeah. It's just we've identified a problem.
Anything more to add? Grave, you were in the discussion a lot, right? Do you want to add more, or
like to the mentor talk,
or just to LRP or mentors? We kind of went fully. We covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And you were in the discussion, like it was just a general discussion, wasn't it? Right? Like everyone was kicking in their 2 cents. So I think we should move on to other topics, right? Anyone want to say anything more?
I mean, we can give Rave closing because they kind of got tangled up but didn't get their own full statement. So
yeah, let's give them some closing statements, Rave. And
on MRP or what?
MRP and mentors or whatever, anything.
Okay. So at the end of the day, if there are any people who think that they're going to be precluded from becoming an admin because of the notes that they have, really you should consider like how much time can go by and how little those notes matter like once it happens. Because at the end of the day, I'm looking when I'm verifying if someone would be a good candidate, I'm looking at like how you talk to people. If like as an example, if I watch someone diffuse a fight in D-chat or OOC like successfully and I didn't have to do anything to step in, like that definitely pings my radar, because at the end of the day we're just doing ref and DM shit. So like these should be people who are already like ready to like have interactions like with each other. And if you're like aspiring to do like admin work, you should like get your weight up in those regards. Just like generally like the way you engage the community and how you interact with others. Like the only situation where I can see a mentor like specifically outdoing an admin is in regards to the idea of like this person is like going to be like more on the cutting edge of like what's going on. And I think that like maybe there is an intersection of people who can like be really like pleasant in those kinds of conversations and know everything about the game and for some reason aren't fit to be admin for some like for any number of situations. But I think that's like kind of like a small intersection of things, but that's kind of restating what other people have said. In regards to like MRP, like I was there for day one of that, and I've gotten to watch it go from like people leaving the insoles out in tool storage because nobody actually needed them, to like where we're at now, where people wait till they're all about to board the shuttle to do any of their antag objectives. I think MRP has like a lot of like interesting stuff about it. I think it's like really challenging, especially because you have to ask yourself, what am I going to do to fill my time? Which is an experience that a lot of people instinctively avoid when they play this game. They just want to burn through job content, get antags taken care of, and kind of like move on. So taking any sort of time to like try and like slow down and be performative is like very interesting. But it has produced like situations where things are still rounds take too long. People feel like not enough action happens. People cry foul about power gaming, and then you pick it apart and it turns out that it's like not as easy as you were kind of expecting. The one thing I have to say from like my examination from MRP, from like spending my time learning this game on Bagel and Sybil, and then like the time that I've like involved myself in like HRP stuff, is that HRP has like a level of like stick up its ass that can be like fun for like situations, but like if anything's gonna take like mime and clown from me, like I just can't take that. Like there's a level of like goofy, there's like a level of like looseness that I think that TG Station embodies, like regardless of if you're on LRP or MRP, and that's like the real like freedom and fantastic thing. And I hope that we can make more use of it both in LRP environments and MRP environments, because I think at the end of the day,
I don't think that you have to remove clown for it to be HRP though. Like,
what?
I don't think that HRP is fundamentally incompatible with mime and clown. Mime and clown are perfectly reasonable things to have.
I think Rave was just saying that role players have a tendency to start to take themselves too seriously.
Yeah. At that point, though, that's when you throw them into some D&D, okay? Like they need to learn what character death is.
Like when the debate, like when we start to take the debate too seriously, Goof shows up.
Yeah.
My God, he's completely correct. We can't remove the clown.
The clown must be part of the debate. Hello, Goof.
Hi,
What up?
Goofball.
Go Goof 2021.
All right.
Sorry
Sacko,
I
do you
couldn't
wanna-
be
do
here
you wanna-
earlier. I was in the middle of D&D.
That's all right. Sacko, do you want to move us on to the next topic?
All right, yeah, for sure, for nice. This
I
one
was-
is
I was
close to my
literally-
heart.
Oh, sorry, Rave.
I
Please
was
finish.
literally at the peak of a thought. I
No,
was
wait,
just saying
go,
that, like,
Go,
Go,
Rave.
Rave, go.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Goof
Yeah, I
just
was
joined
just trying to reply. I don't know why y'all are trying to skip past what Rave
God
was saying.
damn it.
Rave has the floor. Sorry. Let's.
Yeah.
at the end of the day, LRP and MRP can both miss the mark on like the like group experience that we're all having, and it's like due for completely different reasons within like the rule sets. But like at the end of the day, while it's like hard to break out of your viewpoint on things in that regard, it really is worth just like trying to stretch out a little bit and either like do things a bit faster or take things a bit slower depending on like the kind of gamer that you are. And like that's what I gotta say. So thank you.
All right. So it's a more personal thing, right?
I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. Okay. So next one is a question close to my heart. It's do you have any opinions on Basil? Like how are we gonna get more players on there? Do we think Basil's in a good state? Do we want a LRP low pop server or
Knuckles.
yeah?
Players
Armhulen.
seem to enjoy Basil the way it is right now.
Yeah, we have a very steady group of regulars on Basil, right? But
Personally, I think we should leave Basil simple as is, and we should instead open a second EU server. Well, technically a third now that Campbell's operational, but Campbell is weird, and like even the key holders can't access it. MSO is literally the only one who could mess with Campbell. Still though, it's kind of dumb that we have 3 US servers, 2 LRP, 1 medium RP, and then only 1 EU server, and then the other's MRP. Like that's dumb. We should have 2 EU servers. Clearly, whatever's going on at Basil works out, so I feel like the EU servers should have access to that too.
Can I just quickly interject
Didn't
here?
you recently? Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, no, carry on, Sticky.
I was gonna say, didn't you recently say? Maybe I'm misremembering, Goof, that you wanted to remove Basil.
No, I wanted to just make it like, hey, no, God.
Wasn't there a thread?
The first thing in there was, hey, maybe we should like give it a different code base or adjust some stuff on it, you know?
Okay, so you want to change it into something else.
We could, yeah, but if at the end of the day, people in that thread said, "Nah, it's fine as is," and I agree with them.
You've just lost the entire Basil vote of 4 players.
Can I take my badge?
No, I'm literally agreeing with the Basil vote.
I know.
The Basil vote says, "Hey, keep it as is," and I'm agreeing with them. Hey, we could just keep Basil
Okay,
as
Monk
is.
Let Arm
gamers,
go.
hear this hot take.
Uh-oh.
What if we had a low pop map for Begil? Like, I think that honestly, here's the thing. When I joined the game, High Pop was 30 players, and now High Pop is like 60 or 70. So it's easily like doubled.
Yeah,
But
we used to have a low pop map called.
the game works at what is now a low pop level. So why don't we just like make Begil? Like, we don't have to say like you're a failure server unless you get 60 players, 24/7 dynamic tram station. Why don't we instead say like you're a cool server, let's work with the maptainer and actually get maps that work with low pop.
Yeah,
Ooh, crazy,
exactly.
isn't that? And we can keep doing that for other things to make Begil like kind of its own thing.
Yeah, but let me interject here. The thing is, are you asking the people who are currently playing there what they want to do with it, or is this just coming from a point of, well, I think this would be a good idea.
This comes
It's
from
an
a place of
authoritarianism,
deeply
yes.
No. This comes from a place of deeply understanding those people. They like it's kind of weird. It's like Stockholm syndrome. They get mad when you talk about low pop, but they also love
what they
it.
want. So what they want is they want a special low pop map made for them. Is that what you're saying?
I think it would help. I mean, honestly, let's just stop denying what they are.
Well, here's my
hey,
issue. People don't know what the players want. It's kind of like if they're having fun on like Meta Station at Pop or whatever, let them have fun.
Quick,
at Meta
we have a
Station on
forum
Pop.
moderator. There's off-topic posting going on in my candidate thread.
Are you talking about the Chupacabra
Shut
post
up,
I made?
dude.
I am so
Oh my-
sorry.
Anyway,
Hey, excuse me, shut
Not
up.
relevant.
oh my fucking god! Right. Anyway, as I was saying before, I was rudely cut off.
Yeah.
Chupacabra.
something like every server at the moment has a place which it fulfills. Badger is low pop. Sybil is like a cool LRP experience, which tends to have a lot of newer players in it. Terry is like fucking. I don't even know. Terry's like hell, but it's cool because people like it. Even the server of Campbell, right? No one knows what's going on there because it seems that people just don't want to engage with the players. Campbell at the moment functions like a marathon server. If you log on, you can see people like doing stuff like, I don't know, making little bedrooms and like having people sleeping in
It's so
beds
cute.
and shit. It's really cool. But all these people, who act like it's just another MRP server, they're clearly not talking to the players and missing the entire point of it, of what it is. Like, if players want to have, meta station on their like 5-pop server where they'll just like wherever
I'm
they
back.
want to do, let them do it. It's perfectly fair to allow them to have their fun without forcefully pushing some kind of funny thing onto them, like making them into lab rats when maybe they just want to have fun on low pop.
Based and true.
Hey, Lucas, could you boost your mic a bit? You're quieter than everybody else.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me see if I can fix that.
Cheers.
Louder.
Is this better?
Louder!
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
Okay.
It's fine.
There you go.
Cool. What was the original question? Because I feel like we got sidetracked. Lucas had good points. Oh yeah, what to do with Basil?
It was me speaking.
Yeah,
Fine.
yeah. How to get players up on Basil? Are we at a good place? Is LRP good? Like, just general thoughts.
I think
LRP bad.
we have a super high pop EU server. We have a pretty high pop US server, and then we've got a low pop US server.
Yeah,
I think all are valid experiences. I think everyone should be allowed to do what they want. I don't think there are big complaints about the state of Basil from people who actually play on
if
Basil.
people want, if people want to go on HRP US, go to Sybil, right?
I agree with the moderator and therefore win the debate.
Yes. Okay. Anyone want to chime in here?
Bagel and Sybil have been locked in a title exchange for like years, like way before I was even here.
Mm-hmm.
We used to literally swap the names on Basil and Sybil. Like
randomly. Yeah, I was a Basil man.
People play on the big server until they have enough negative interactions with like some individual that they want to go play somewhere else to avoid them, and then they go to the other server, and then like more and more people go as they get like tired of certain play styles. And then, like, eventually the pendulum shifts and the people who chase pop go after this. It's known as the Lexia Black theory. Proposed
moderator,
and
I'd like to officially object to that.
I am sexy, so
amazing.
It's real, and that's just how it's going to be. So, Goof says, "Oh, we should have like a counter for Terry." Sure, people can get sick of playing with other people on Terry and want to escape to another like good TG server with EU ping. Like that sounds fine. And I think
I tried playing on Terry once, and that was a miserable experience ping-wise. People there were great, but holy shit, I had like a ping of 300, and that is unplayable. We should not make our
stick
EU
to
players.
US, motherfucker.
You're not gonna find a better ping Europe
If an EU player right now wants to get away from a certain playstyle, they have to be stuck either going to the MRP server, which is cool, but some people don't like that, or they have to go suffer through fucking 300 ping on the US servers.
Yeah,
so we need a second server available for Terry.
I'm really sorry to cut in.
So correct.
Please stop treating Campbell as just another MRP server, because it isn't just another MRP server. And by going, oh, it's just another MRP server, you're clearly showing that you're out of touch.
What it is going to change over
announcement
time.
that Campbell was made the MRP EU server.
I retain ownership over Campbell.
Can you explain instead of freaking the fuck out?
It's a marathon server. That's my.
Yeah, it is literally a marathon server.
I'm there sometimes.
I'm so tired of people just misunderstanding what it is and going, "Oh, it's just another MRP server." Which is not. It's not just another MRP server.
Look, I'm just going by what Episode's official announcement was. Campbell returns, MRP for the quote-unquote Europors.
Right. Well, I mean, for someone who's running,
We
for
will
your
also be
to do
hosting
everything.
a marathon round.
Okay, but
So
for
I figured,
some,
they did a marathon round, but I didn't know that was,
yeah,
going by what MSO said, that's not the focus of the server.
I understand that might not be like the official focus, but if you took the time to speak to the players who play there, or even just logged in for a round to observe the server, you would see that that's
Okay.
not what it is.
So
And I feel
anyways,
like
my point still stands that we need more servers for the EU players, because clearly their only option is to go play on a marathon server or suffer through high ping if they don't want to play on Terry at this time.
Baba Brown, I think, brought up that they're looking to do like new infrastructure to our servers or whatever that's going to let us like roll out new ones faster or something. It was brought up last election, but like haven't really heard like much follow up about it.
If I
And
recall
that seems
correctly,
like
it's literally a
something
few button presses to actually spin up a new server right now.
fascinating.
It
MSO
sounds
said
like code things. I mean, I know it's keyboard and
MSO
shit,
said
but-
something to the something to that. So
yes, policies. Let's go.
Anyone else got thoughts?
I got one thought.
Yes.
Damn, I love BOOKTOWER's voice. I want him to do every announcement.
Oh yeah, dude.
God damn.
I was just saying that we're on the same page, right?
The same page of the book tower.
BOOKTOWER's voice is
Huh?
very
Huh?
good. Good, it's a good
Heavenly.
voice, BOOKTOWER. What do you think of your voice, BOOKTOWER?
Can we get the
Okay.
next question?
Next question. Campbell. What will we change about Campbell? Anything to change about it?
discuss
I
with the
mean-
players who play on it and see what they want.
It's kind of in its infancy. I just kind of want to wait and see what
we
happens.
just opened the server back up.
I have thoughts.
Okay.
I love Campbell. I ran the marathon to try and get the attention on it, and to test it, and it didn't go super well. But
Yeah.
I
So the
think
marathon was just for an event, then you're saying?
No. The marathon was there as like the Campbell launch. It was coordinated with MSO. But I think the real thing.
So is Campbell a medium RP server, a marathon server, or a medium RP marathon server?
It's currently a medium RP marathon server.
Okay.
At least in practice, but what I would maybe suggest is, given that our EU player base seems to be pretty keen on LRP, I don't know that there's a huge amount. I know that there's a lot of like EU manual servers, but I also don't think that manual has the population to split 50-50 across two MRP servers and not end up with like, an unfortunately low population on both. I think that having the Campbell as an MRP and marathon server kind of gives it two gimmicks that it can pull from, and makes it a little bit more of a unique experience for everyone to try out.
You're saying that it isn't MRP actively at this time?
No, it is technically MRP, but because of the population being so low,
But you admins are not treating it as MRP.
No, it is being treated as MRP, but like it's just different because like you're gonna do, if there's 5 people on the server and like one admin at most of the time, then like you're gonna do weird shit.
All right,
like
I'll ask MSO to update the title to say Marathon EU on like the front page.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's not officially
Marathon.
Marathon. It is Marathon practically, just because the rounds are really long. It is officially MRP. What I'm trying to say is, I think a marathon-friendly rule set, which wouldn't require much, literally just a couple of changes, and maybe some config tweaks to how dynamic specifically works on Campbell, would just to make Marathon more naturally likely, maybe tone down, make sure that there's still traitors and stuff, but maybe tone down some of the round ending and tags, or adjust some configs here or there, just to make the marathon more likely to happen. Disabling shuttle for the first 72 hours, as Briggle
Also,
said,
I
is
just want to
also
say,
a cool idea.
Cyan, if you're thinking that I don't know Campbell is running, you clearly haven't been listening to the debate. Although it's obvious you have like 0 brain cells, Cyan, so I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know. Okay. Anyway.
Please, no
I'm
hostility,
responding to
man. Just please.
Yeah, don't just get mad at text.
Don't get mad at the chat. Yeah, just
Yeah.
we're debating each other, not
Keep
the
it
audience.
out of your head. Don't give them rent-free access.
We're
Anyway.
not debating the spectators. Don't come on.
Yeah. rule set. I think the
I
rule
did not
set.
say the words
Shut up,
open
Goof!
Campbell. What the
No,
fuck are you
move.
saying?
God damn it! The rule set. The rule set.
Look, if the
should
peanut
be-
gallery gets to say I'm saying stuff, I gotta say I didn't say it.
The
No,
fuck
let-
up!
Get
my
Oh
on
my
top-
god, you never
Hey,
let
fuck
people
you.
speak!
Get on topic. We need to be more organized. Actually,
Holy shit. There's
We-
Sorry,
actually
Wobbly.
I've been letting people just like go off. Like, let's go. Let's start at one person. Okay, so
Moderate your peanut gallery.
Oh my
fuck
god.
up.
so Armhulen, do you want to say anything about Campbell?
I already said my piece, and it's like we
Okay.
just made it, and I don't know, no thoughts, head empty.
You said Blue Talk. You Goof. You want to say anything more?
That's all I have to say about Campbell.
Okay, cool. Sticky. Anything more to say?
Yep, add a couple of chill rules that make marathoning a little bit easier. Change the config to make marathoning a little bit easier. It's an EU MRP marathon round officially if I'm Headman.
Okay, Rave. Anything to say? Any concluding thoughts?
Yeah. So Manuel actually frequently caps out on population. So Manuel could absolutely 1000% survive a full pop split with Campbell, and both servers would experience improvements from people stepping on each other less, which is part of the reason why we had to reduce the pop cap in the first place. People were literally like reporting gray tiding when it was just their coworkers sharing resources and them not talking to their coworkers. Anyway, Campbell's got a culture now. That's great.
Yeah, it's great.
People, we can't just take all the people who are European players and say you have to play on Campbell now, especially because a lot of MRP is about like, you know, remembering things about each other's characters and like trying to like have conversations and personalities and garbage. So to just like spit people over into another area and be like, hey, the ping's better now, you're gonna love that, is I think like part of the reason why we haven't seen like much increase of Campbell beyond like its use as like a Sybil 2. If you know people remember how Sybil 2 was, you know, it's great to have another server with an MRP rule set. Terry took a long time to get on his feet. I hope that Campbell can do that as well.
Well, the real thing that crippled Terry coming out the gate was the constant crashing, which regretfully, I mean, we were able to fix it finally, but it took like 6 months.
Yeah.
Are you pro or anti marathon on Campbell, Rave?
So you know, when I first started getting into the community here, I was informed that, you know, Sybil was the RP place to go, and this was in no way enforced by the rules. It was just the general vibe. And when Sybil 2 came around, there was also like a word of mouth, like we will not codify culture, like kind of thing. Like the only thing that was different between Sybil and Bagel was that Sybil had a lower pop, and that was to quote unquote protect the culture. So I really have to ask, like, what would make it so special that we would want to go beyond like what we have already done here? And if we do choose to go beyond, like, what are improvements that we can do to the other servers?
I mean, has Manual not had its config adjusted to make it slightly less chaotic than Terry in terms of like dynamic?
Yeah, and that's
Manual
been
runs
like
its own dynamic config. Yes.
Exactly, yeah.
That's been the new kind of like thing that happened, right? Is that we did adjust antag rates for MRP.
Okay, I think we could do the same on Campbell to encourage MRP marathon rounds, and we probably don't need to codify too much to make that happen, given that the culture is already quite keen on long rounds.
It's already running off the manual configs.
Yeah.
I agree that it's an easy config tweak, and I also agree that config tweaking is cool.
Yeah, I would be hesitant to make it purely extended, just because I still think
That's an abysmal idea.
Yeah, I think some conflict makes it at least somewhat interesting.
Yeah,
extended is an awful game mode period. So.
Tweak dynamic, right?
But it's cool for events. But yeah, I think some tweaks.
Yeah.
I think it's good.
Campbell, I think, is in a very good state in terms of forming. It's a very good formative state at the moment. It's getting a really strong culture there, which is lovely to see. Speaking to the players, they're having fun on what's going on there. They're happy with the rounds. They're happy being able to make their, their like stasis bedroom or whatever There's like 8 stasis beds, and they can log out and safely sleep on them without being looted. Very lovely culture. I think, yeah, definitely, I agree with both Sticky and Rave in the sense where I feel like we can definitely make changes to help this kind of behavior, but I think we shouldn't be so quick because it's in a very formative stage. So we should give it a bit more time to see what happens. And if, like, let's say, in a month, like maybe like a few weeks even, after the elections, whatever, we could definitely have a look at disabling, for example, like Wriggle says, random events or something like that. Because in a marathon server, do you really want to rad storm when everyone's logged off? No. It kind of
Wow.
ruins the vibe.
Stealing Wriggle's talking points, unbelievable.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
Wriggle's
Wriggle,
No, Wriggle's contributing really well. I just wanted to say because
Wriggle has
Wriggle asked
another
me.
question for you, Sticky.
Yeah, I was
Actually.
going to respond to that.
Yeah.
So Wriggle said, "Sorry, go ahead."
How would you make it interesting? It's effectively extended as it is right now. Antagonists do not antagonize, right?
So I think this can be solved in part by admin presence. I think that you can create scenarios on a marathon round that can be interesting to solve. I think also encouraging antags culturally, not through rules, to have a kind of almost, I would kind of describe it as a play by mail mindset. Like having this kind of, you're an antagonist on a station with like 4 people. You have the ability to do grand, insane, creative antagonistic projects, right? You can reroute disposals into like a nightmare trap that someone has to like beg for help to be released from. You can do all kinds of crazy shit as an antag. And I think that encouraging that mindset of setting traps and destroying parts of the station to achieve some kind of goal, or like doing some crazy supervillain shit, and then other players join later and see, holy fuck, why has someone removed every tile in every hallway, and now the only way through the station is through like, I don't know, glass shards disposal cannons. Like, this is the kind of shit you can do as an antag on Campbell that you wouldn't be able to do anywhere else. I think that would be a really cool thing to make culturally, encouraged and possible, is that kind of play by mail mindset.
I think the problem is with, like what you're saying, with the fact that there's not going to be many antagonists. Why don't you just make it a low rules server then?
Well, because it's an MRP server.
I know, but like you said, antags don't spawn very often. And what you just said there is you want people to kind of, not necessarily grief, but that sounded pretty griefy.
Tweak dynamic, right?
I think dynamic kind of, so yeah, like with the, yeah, I think that's solvable with config. I don't think I would make it low rule, because I think that especially on low pop, there are a surprising number of like antags. Like the minimum cap for how antag spawning works, I've seen like rounds with 10 people and like 2 or 3 traitors. Like it's a bit mad. So I don't think it needs to be low rule. I get the I understand. Like you're probably thinking, okay, it's a lower pop server, lots of freedom to build stuff. We give people even more freedom so they can do slightly dangerous shit without being punished for it. I would maybe argue that even on MRP, given that it's a marathon round, you can probably make stuff that's more dangerous as long as you signpost it or explain what you're doing, or you're doing, like, if you're tearing half the station apart to make it into a giant fucking ice rink, I don't know. I think that's probably acceptable as a non-antag.
I think the problem is there isn't really a consensus as to what the server's going to be. Like Lucas was saying earlier, that I think given time, eventually I'm trying to find the word that he used, but you said it was formative. The kind of community isn't set in stone yet.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we need to do anything to set it in stone all that much. Just adjust configs to make it easier to do the stuff that the community is already doing there.
Okay. Anything else? Can we move on?
I think we can move on.
I guess I have like just one thing to say.
All right.
Mothblocks has been, I know he's not here for this debate, but he kind of like fixed dynamic a while back, like made it significantly better. I don't know. I'd probably just, if I got elected, I'd probably just give him the reins to keep going, because he's kind of doing a great job for a maintainer. He does good stuff on the configs.
Mothblocks is great.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think we agree on that.
I wish he was running for Headmin.
He is, isn't he?
He is.
I wish Orange is
That's the joke.
of the election.
Yeah.
Put Mothblocks.
I'm joking. Okay.
If only Mothblock was able to debate with us.
Yeah, he slept in really late, so
He's forfeited his candidacy by
It's
not
okay,
joining
I
in.
did too.
okay.
Yeah, okay, people have
let's-
lives.
Let-
Let's
This-
head to the next topic.
You don't want to talk about this?
No.
What are we talking about?
Inactive admins.
Okay.
Oh,
Is that a problem at all? Like,
can we all veto this topic, or is Goof gonna jump
I
in?
would.
I
no,
want to
would like-
veto
I'll
it.
jump in. Most of us
you.
have said we have like 120 admins. Like, maybe we should think about not recruiting more admins. Like, we have 120 already. That's a lot of coverage.
The hottest take known to man. Let's just stop recruiting admins.
Yeah,
We have 120. Like, straight up,
eventually
that's
they'll all
not
die.
counting maintainers.
And
if
And-
everyone's an
Sonic
admin,
is
no one's an
paradise.
admin,
And our
right?
good friend Orno, rest in peace.
That's
Mr.
an
Technically still
Incredibles
at
quote
PhD.
Sacko just
Jesus
said.
Christ, I'm not
Let's
okay
go.
with this.
Anyway, so I think I actually have like a not retarded take on this, if I
Okay.
may say so. So I feel like at the moment there doesn't really seem to be a set in stone framework for admins who are, inactive and they want to retire, they want to come back, they don't know what's really going on. Spoken to a few now retired admins about this. They're not really sure what will happen. So I think it would be cool to have like maybe some kind of frame. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is admin friendships. And I understand that admins they make a very tight knit community and they make like this kind of really great group of friends. And for a lot of people, retiring is just losing their friends because obviously retired admins don't have access to the admin channels. So one of the first things I would propose is give some of the retired admins access to the admin channels, because at the end of the day, their knowledge is going to be valuable, and as long as they're not shit posting.
Why don't we just move the
social
retirement
list.
home off server? Like,
What?
Well, hold on.
disentangle the friend group from the admin status entirely. Move retirement home off server. Like, there you go.
No. Anyway. Yeah. What I mean is move. Allow
Chad.
Allow.
I literally know
admins
more
to
about
the
the
main
internal
channel.
workings of the admin team than you do, Brock. Come on.
Are you running?
That would solve the problem.
Are you running as head admin?
Yeah, he is.
Is he?
Yeah. Anyway, but what I mean
That's
is like
cool.
I feel like with inactive admins, we should have like a period, maybe I don't know. Let's say roughly something like 3 months. Okay.
Can I? Are you done?
No, so say like 3 months, and then you force them off, but you give them access so they can still talk with their friends, their feedback's still valuable, etc., etc. And then if they want to come back, give them like a playtime requirement, and as long as there's no bullshit drama, throw them back in.
Yeah, they have retirement home. They can interact with all the admins in a retirement home.
Yeah,
from
movie
what I've heard,
nights and
They don't have to leave the
everything.
community.
Yeah, it's very nice. Like, I don't think they're exiled from admin chatter at all.
No,
But
we put
they
them in
have-
front of the window. They get to stare at the cars going by. It's great.
from what I've heard, that some
Yeah, they-
some retired admins don't feel that way, but
That's true.
obviously it's not everyone.
Well, I mean,
That's
losing access to chat.
Well, I mean, we have people like
the big
Hugbug
loss.
who float around because their re-admin got denied, and so they're just kind of floating around retirement forever.
Yeah, if you like come back and you ask for admin and the headman
Yeah, if
say
you come
no,
back,
there's gonna
ask
be
for
salt.
admin and get told no, we should just pull your retirement status entirely.
Whoa,
Like, you're not getting back after
the
that.
hottest
No.
take.
no.
No, can I just?
If
I
you
feel
get
like
the
I have.
admin, we should
If
still
you're
give
going to
you
get admin that's
retire-
tied, look,
retirement,
if it's for
right?
there is
Okay.
no situation in which we've refused somebody admin that wasn't because of a reason that isn't just gonna fade with time. Like,
Yeah.
Horny Granny's never getting admin back. Nervier's never getting admin back. They're technically retired.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're insane. Look, I think the
Exactly. That's my point. Is like 9 times out of 10, if we're denying somebody their re-admin for retirement, they're never going to be given admin again. Like,
Goofball, you
just
don't
pull
know.
it.
You don't know
You
if
don't
I'm
know.
gonna re-admin Nervier and I'm gonna
If you
admin
re-admin
Sheza and make
Nervier, we're
me out
done
a gang,
talking.
and I'm just gonna launch meteors. You don't know me. I'm an enigma.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
a
No,
risk.
seriously.
Meteors,
Hang
that
on.
is
Hang on. I've
so
got. Let's not.
2008. It's all about
let's
the
not-
immovable rods now.
Let's
How
not.
is this,
Let's not go too far.
how is
Hang
this
on.
relevant? How is this relevant actually
Yeah,
to
this is
this
garbage.
debate?
This is
Come
garbage.
on,
Can we?
we have look. It's almost 10 p.m. here in Europe. Come on, let's get on with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
let's
just gonna
move
wrap
on.
up with one more.
Talking
Okay,
about
fine.
inactive admins,
Should
retired
we-
admins
If
is part of that
we can
pool.
skip this to cede my time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's get off this topic. I didn't think this would be a big deal, but yeah.
I literally said nothing.
Do you want to say anything?
I'm needing my time as well. Rave, just give up, please.
Yeah, I mean, like it's obviously like a contentious thing, and I think that like Lucas's suggested thing has like really good intentions, but at the end of the day, it all ends up getting like way stickier. Like the deeper you get into it, and the more you start to like work with people and understand where they're coming from. Like I know that the past teams have like done a good job of kind of just like checking down the line and asking people if they're planning on coming back anytime soon, and just having a real conversation with them, and that seems like pretty decent. At the end of the day, like the biggest reason that it's a problem to keep people around without retiring them is that it poses a security risk, or they might come in and not be aware of how like rules and policy have changed and make like some sort of dramatic ban. At the end of the day, like those are like real things, and they suck, and they're things like definitely to worry about. But I think that like we're all like people, and we all have like quite a bit of like room to wiggle and learn and grow and discuss. And so the idea of like putting down anything harder than I want to have had a conversation with every admin in our roster before my term is over, and I want to have like a real conversation with them about where they see themselves in the organization this term and possibly next term. I can't imagine doing anything harder than that, just because it doesn't feel appropriate. People put a lot of time and effort into this. That's what I got to say.
Can I just add one small thing, which is that I have personal experience with this because I've been in the community for like 8 years, and I've gone away and come back and gone away and come back a couple of times, and it's never been a big deal. I lost admin once, I think, and came back as a trialman. I think coming back as a trialman is probably a decent way to handle stuff. I think that either we should have a very clear set in stone policy saying if you accept retirement, if you do the good thing of saying I'm going to be away for long enough that I think I should leave the community, you should be guaranteed trialman when you come back. Otherwise, no one is ever going to retire. The obvious incentive is going to be to hold on to your position and do the minimum to maintain it in order to not end up in that time when you come back to 3 headmans who happen to not like you and decide that you'd never get to come back again.
I want to contest that with the simple thing that like one of the major reasons why people feel so burned by not being allowed back in is because when they leave, the headmans are like, you are guaranteed a spot back. Of course, you're welcome back. And then they leave and they come back and say, can I be an admin? And the new headmans are like, well, do you have enough hours? Like maybe you need to start at a lower rank. Like the promises is the problem. We should be promising nothing inherently, but
we don't
in the end.
But then no one staffing log.
Then
no one
started
doing the
push.
welcome back anytime thing like 2 years ago.
No one
but
will
what
retire.
Sticky is talking about is that
no
people are going to retire because you can just enforce like activity limits.
Okay, so then we're back to square one, where what's the, like, this is such a soft, I mean, if you want to have conversations with people, sure, but if you want people to have the incentive to admit when they're going to be away for long enough that they should retire, you should make retirement safe. If you don't do that, then you're only ever going to remove people by force.
I fully agree.
But I don't see the problem with removing people by force if they're inactive.
I didn't say I had a problem with removing people by force. I'm saying that you will never be able to rely on any individual to make the right decision about themselves because they will not leave knowing that there's no guarantee they will ever be able to come back. So you're incentivizing inactive admins to occasionally jump in and do fuck around a little bit.
The incentivization is that you do good and you're like a good member of the community. If you're like a shitty person,
nobody gives a shit about their ability to press buttons. They give a shit about their ability to hang out with the friend group still. 90% of you are not admins to press buttons. You're admins because it's a friend group you're in.
I am an admin for buttons. I like eventing.
All right, okay, the 10% is right. We have a representative, I guess.
I hate all admins. Cool. Can we move on to another topic? This one's stale.
Yes, sir. Okay, it's like 8 p.m. in Britain, right?
It's about to hit 9.
5 to 9.
5 to 9.
Oof. Okay. This has been going on for a while.
Just let admins have their friend group and just set up an admin Discord server. Separate from this one.
We've moved on.
We've moved on.
It's done.
Oh yeah, okay, sure. Just fucking ignore everything I got to say about it. Sorry. Next.
Damn right.
That's
Next
not what it's
question.
like, though.
Okay, we have
As it
three.
should be.
Didn't you
We-
just monopolize the chat for like 10 minutes straight about it?
We have
Yeah.
3 more questions. We have
Oh, God.
moving Rule 11 onto Rule 1, limiting candidate terms and opinions on giving players access to policy discussions. What do we want to do first?
Well, I vote for one of the first two, but they're going to go on for ages.
Okay.
Yeah. Sacko, I think you're gonna have to be the big boy here and make the choice.
Yeah, big
Mm.
boy pants
Moderator,
time.
after all.
We
Yeah.
What's
can
the one
get through
that
all
you
3
are
of these.
most interested in?
Let's start with
yourself?
the first one.
Moderator decides.
Okay, moving Rule 11 into Rule 1.
I
Let's-
fucking hate. I knew you'd do
Stupid
this.
decision.
Okay,
Bad idea.
let's start top down and give Arm the first roll, and then just
Because
do it.
Arm is
by line.
into this one, right?
Yeah, this is Arm's.
Yeah, I'm
baby.
quote, into it.
Arm,
gets
talk
off.
about it.
All right. I mean, what's there to say? I feel like people don't like being accused of being. Here's the thing: with a lot of the Rule 11 bans, they go one of 2 ways. Either A, the headman side with the player, right, and then the admin feels kind of confused and owned on like what the actual enforcement is, because if the player is getting the ban lifted, it comes from a place where the admin didn't understand Rule 11 when applying it. Or the headman side with the admin, in which case it's not like the player thought, like if they're appealing, they didn't think they were being racist, but it's like the headman's rule, you are racist. Like people just end up getting incredibly burned by that thought, especially since they're never going to agree and go like, oh yeah, well I was being racist and stuff. And so I ask, why is this an entirely separate rule from Rule 1? It feels like it's just like a drama, and also it invites reacting to it differently. So yeah, that's my argument for it. Shorter rules page. Thank you.
Has it been used much?
Every time it's used, it's been
We hit a few people with it, but because MSO is a whiny little bits boy and made it incredibly fucking vague, like, all right, okay. The exact text
I
of
want
the
to talk
rule
about
is,
it. Yeah.
bigotry is not allowed, intentionally seeking to demean others due to their actual or perceived race, sex, gender, orientation, or the like is not tolerated. But then he appends it with, it is not our goal to create or enforce a list of banned words, and instead our goal to eject bigotry from the community. The problem is that this is not actually used to eject bigotry from the community. It's used to basically work as a get-out-of-jail-free card here. Like, we've already seen a few bans go south because somebody was pretty obviously being a bigoted fuck, but, like, they weren't tactically being racist, so they got a pass.
Any like examples you can quote?
Yeah, I had some bans bookmarked for this, actually. Let me find my folder.
Yeah, let's go through
Opening
those.
the binder. He's got the binder.
The Book of Grudges.
He
Yeah.
got MSO to
They're
fact
cracking
check
the book
bans.
open here.
Okay. Just while
Okay,
he's
hold on. I'm
flipping
just
through-
gonna
I know
search
he's
for
got it.
Rule 11 then, because
Okay. So while you're searching
go on to
through
the next person while I'm looking this up here, because there was a specific ban I wanted to pull
wonderful.
up, but I have to dig
Okay,
through
so
fields
next
here.
person would be
Hello.
Sticky.
So, I'm going to say it. I am responsible for Rule 11. I championed it. I was the only person who had it on my platform until I started
good.
DMing people and pushing it directly onto other people's platforms, including Coco, who won. I directly petitioned MSO. The screenshot in his announcement of the bigotry rule, it includes that screenshot. I fucking made it when bringing evidence to him. Rule
Can I just
11
quickly
is my
say,
rule.
a lot of my friends
Yes.
are in that screenshot, so shout out to them. Shout out to the Terry
Shout
boys.
out to Lucas's buddies.
To the Terry gang.
To the Terry gang. So look, I made that rule. I take responsibility for it, and if you hate the rule, you hate me, and if you like the rule, you like me. That's my verdict on the rule itself.
You didn't go far enough with your rule, brah.
I did everything I could. MSO did not want to ban directly words, and I'm not going to contend with that because that's host level shit. Here is my thinking on merging it into Rule 1. That was how it was. It didn't fucking work. I've just seen 2 weeks ago a server that does not have that rule has a don't be a dick rule, but does not have a don't be a bigot rule, get fucking nuked from Discord because they said too much Nazi shit. The kind of shit we literally said ourselves constantly in Discord, not me personally, but lots of our community were doing in Discord a year ago. The precise same language was being used in this other Discord. They got fucking nuked, and they had like 400 or 500 players. Their server has collapsed as a result. Not having Rule 11 is an existential threat to the server. If we allow that shit on it, Discord will fucking go bye-bye eventually, we'll get reported, shit goes south, and also just makes the community worse in a million different ways. But I think the best argument against removing Rule 11 and going back to Rule 1 is that it didn't work previously, and because, Cyan, they were posting on ironic Nazi shit in this server too, don't you worry. Until Rule 11 came about, and we managed to get rid of some of the worst people
straight up actual
in
fucking
this
Nazis
community.
in our community.
Yeah, straight up.
No, we
listen,
cleared a lot of them out because a lot of people got very offended that they couldn't be transphobic anymore.
Yeah, that's a big one. So sorry.
Oh, by the way,
do you have your thing now?
Super important.
Yeah. Do you have your example yet, or can I keep talking?
I'm not finding the band I'm looking for. I remember
Cool.
somebody
I will
specifically
keep
got off.
talking then. Thank you.
Goofball.
Yeah, keep going.
I want to
flipping
I want to
through.
respond to that though.
Hold on. I'll let you respond in just a second.
Okay, fine.
So you said there was one thing you said that I was really oh yeah, so you said that it just makes people feel bad because the player feels like they're being declared a racist and they're not going to agree with the ruling if it's a Rule 11 ruling. Here's my counterpoint. How many fucking times, and any of the admins in the chat, please do raise your voices, how many times have you banned someone and they've said, I don't agree I should be getting banned right now, but you still think they should be banned? Like, how many times does a player think they don't deserve the punishment they're getting? I think it's fairly rare to find, because if someone tells me, oh, I totally deserve this, I'm probably not going to fucking ban them if they've understood it that well during the conversation. So I think if you go to someone and say, hey, maybe you shouldn't be saying kill all N-words, and they start, saying, oh shit, I'm sorry, I didn't realize, blah, 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 I'm probably not even going to ban that person. They'll get a note because they shouldn't keep doing it. But like, if someone's disagreeing that heavily, then they probably deserve it because they don't understand what they're doing wrong, and therefore they're probably going to continue doing it. So yeah, I don't think that's a reasonable argument. I think you could make that argument to remove 70% of the rules, which unironically is another.
Careful, I might.
I know, which I also think is equally dumb. So I feel like this just factors into, this is less just so everyone understands, this is not being pro-bigotry, this is being anti-rule in an equally stupid way.
Oh, thank you. Because
to cover your ass.
Here's the thing, I don't want to, like, I'm not saying, like, we should go to back how it was before Rule 11. I just think that there's going to be less drama involved with every single incident if we just rule it. Like, honestly, I feel like being a dick in the community shouldn't be so
I can't find the
protected.
band I'm looking for. So here's the issue with just rolling it into Rule 1, is that on paper, that seems like a good idea, because clearly being a bigot counts as being a dick. But the problem is that now, when you ban somebody for being a bigot, they're going to go to the ban appeal, and they're going to argue that they weren't actually being a dick, and that bigotry is being a dick. And now you have to argue with this absolute smart, totally big brain guy about how bigotry is, in fact, being a dick. Like, that has to be hashed out again. In ban appeals, when we previously had a rule that just said don't be a bigot, and you can't try and fucking argue gymnastics around that. It just straight up says don't be a bigot.
The worst person you know just made a great point.
Frankly, I think that rule doesn't go
totally
far
agree.
enough, and we should have a word ban. Like, fuck it. I can't say Lamau in game, but it lets me say the N-word. Like, come on. I hear Zoomers say Lamau all day IRL. Let's actually talk about that. We need to, like, get rid of these dumb text filters and make them actually filter slurs instead.
He wants to get rid of text filters for Lamau, but he wants to give the people back their Lamau in exchange for their N-word. This is like
a soul for a soul.
This is like the trade for like for Native American land.
We
will give you your Lamau in exchange
but we
for your
do
N-word.
let them say the N-word.
Oh fuck!
He's got heart. I'll give him that.
Take this Lamau bauble in exchange for your land.
I cannot
think it's a
believe
good trade.
I have joined today.
Very base, honestly. Oh my god.
And then, to stay
I'll take that
historically
trade.
accurate, we're going to go back on that and then re-add Lamau anyway to the filter.
I will take that devil's bargain. I will give the people back Lamau in exchange for
Look,
that.
as long as the N-word ends up in the filter somehow, and also the quote-unquote clever adjustments to the N-word that our players love, just put it all in the word filter, all right? Just because you change the N to an L doesn't mean we don't know what you're saying.
I think lizard
No, that's
racism is acceptable.
I think.
I fully
It's
disagree with
not
the
though.
take
It's
that we
just.
should.
It's the same. You're being racist still.
I disagree with
The
the take
entire
that you
point
should
is
add
being
the
a
N word to
bigot,
the
so
Let
filter.
don't
Lucas
be a
talk.
bigot.
To
Hey,
who?
can you-
Goofball? To who?
Anyway,
a lizard? A
Let
non-real,
Lucas
non-thing?
Moderator.
Okay.
Can you all shut the fuck up and
Anyway,
stop shouting to
Hey,
each other?
hey, I'm back. I was busy. I'm back.
Thank you,
We can't
moderator.
be racist towards lizards because we haven't had a lizard player on the server since
Lizards
Cat
are
Girls came out.
aliens.
No, oh my
aliens
God,
aren't
God,
real.
it's falling
What?
apart.
Real life lizards.
No,
and
it's
then-
still a black slurp. Move on.
Right, okay, anyways, I was saying, I don't think we should have things like the N-word in the filter because it really helps identify players who may be undesirable to the server. If they, for example, recently,
Still get a
no.
notification.
we recently
Admins
had
get
a
a notification when you trip the word filter.
Oh my God.
Admin lock. N-word dropped.
Look, I'm just gonna join you talking to everybody else. So in my sense, so if you don't, why should you make it so black and white, right? You could have some kind of
no,
problem.
what? No,
so
you're
I
not
advocate for it, right? Obviously, we can't say nigger in real life, even though in my country, this, right?
Whoa, they just said it.
Yeah, come on.
Now we're really debating. Let's go.
All right, I kicked him.
Becoming a
Okay,
shout.
let's put a timer on this. Let's put a timer on this. Okay,
I kicked him for 2 reasons. Let Lucas talk. He's been trying to talk and no one will let him talk. Please, Lucas, go.
Lucas,
I
go.
don't want to shout over anyone, but anyways, I'm saying so.
Who did you kick?
I kicked the guy who said the N-word and also talked over Lucas.
We need a specific rule in this case because otherwise it just isn't enforced. That's the truth of the matter. Removing the rule won't will just lead to less enforcement. Once again, having something specifically there going, yeah, look out for this. Very good. I don't think we should add it to the filter though, because it creates unique scenarios. For example, someone on Terry recently made every single person on the server say the N-word using
what?
They use circuits.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. They got banned for it. But the point is, if we had something like the filter, it just wouldn't really work.
I would rather have shitty
put it
players
in
on
the
the
filter.
server who don't say the N-word than try and catch people being their worst and then ban. Like, I would rather we have players who follow the rules than have rules not there just so we can catch the people as soon as they cross the line. And
You're
like,
not catching them as they cross the line. It's just if someone's being an asshole,
yeah,
like a
I
bigot,
agree.
even like the bigotry rule is there because people aren't enforcing Rule 1, and I think this isn't just like a bigotry issue. I think this is a bigger issue with a lot of things. Rule 1 just doesn't seem to ever be enforced. Like I see some pretty deranged shit said. Like I think I mentioned this in one of my things. See some pretty deranged shit being said to newer players.
Yeah.
Like, oh, NPC, no, leave, duffel NPC, go kill yourself.
Yeah.
Nothing.
I have
because Rule 1 is not
Hey,
being
just so you
enforced.
know, if somebody explicitly tells you to commit suicide, like AOC, hey, help that shit.
No,
That
it's
is
icy.
bannable.
It's icy.
Yeah,
But
like
the problem is, we allow too much of like, because on the one hand, most people's IC on LRP is just like a stand-in for themselves, and on the other hand, it's the perfect barrier to say whatever cruel, nasty shit to other players you want, and then say, "Well, I'm role-playing." Like it's a problem.
Yeah, it's like, bitch, you ain't fucking role playing. If you're role playing, tell me your character backstory.
Walter brings up a very good point.
Give me
as well,
3 paragraphs right fucking now.
Walter brings up a very good
Oh,
point
you
as
don't
well.
have 3
which I think I mentioned.
paragraphs? You aren't fucking role playing.
I roleplay on LRP.
So Walter brings up a good point here. So the A help button is actually very daunting to newer players because you're told, no one's really told, A help if it's a binary issue. It's always A help if it's a rule break, big boink, big A help, all that bullshit. But A help needs to we need to somehow find a way to make it more friendly and more players turn to it when they're experiencing things like, let's say, bullying or even harassment. I know how stupid it sounds, right? Fucking bullying or whatever, but some of the deranged shit that is said is really driving away from newer players. Like I've taken time to teach a lot of, let's say, new Sekis, new players to the game. I once taught a guy how to do cult as captain because I had the null rod. He was the last cult he left. I was like, right, might as well teach him a few things. But some of the deranged shit he said to these people because they're new, it's just insane. It just isn't dealt with the current Rule 1. Like, the argument against for less rules, the thing I would bring up is, Now, do we need a separate rule going, don't be deranged to newer players?
I think just don't be deranged is a good rule.
Yeah, but then once again, people will argue that's covered under Rule 1.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
I've got cases like this why I believe we should have separate rules for separate things, because otherwise they simply aren't enforced if they're too broad.
I agree. I've been an admin for 8 years, and I've used Rule 1 to ban people, I genuinely think 2 or 3 times in that entire period. And it's because Rule 1 is so difficult to stick. It is literally just... Basically, every time you use Rule 1, you're sticking your reputation and saying, it's almost me or them, right? Like, I believe I know enough about what this community should be that I personally am stepping over the normal rules to say this player shouldn't be a part of the community. And then you have to... The argument is inevitable. Like, there's just always a fucking huge shit show every time a Rule 1 pure ban gets used. So yeah, I don't think Rule 1 is usable, even if the spirit is important to have in the rules. It's just really hard to, like... It's almost a rule just for headmins to use, to be honest. It's so hard for a regular admin to get away with using it.
Yep, but,
I've managed to get a couple of Rule 1s done, and usually you have to, like, really have your case prepared.
Yeah.
You should be, like, ready to point to previous notes as, like, an accumulation of stuff that goes on. Like, nobody gets Rule 1 as their first incident or, like, punitive circumstance. Like, nobody just gets Rule 1. It's a very, like, heavy thing that you have to be prepared to fight for personally.
Yeah, but even that, Rave, oh wow, nice document you've compiled against me. How long have you had this grudge against me that you've been gathering all of this data? Like, there's no way to win this argument. Like,
yeah,
it's always going to be a shit show that comes down to the headman, so it's effectively just like a headman ban.
Well, then my take has become even more clearer. We should have more rules for, like, specific situations.
Finally, the base take of more rules. I agree.
Oh, here we go. More rules.
Based.
I'm
70% more rules. 70% more rules.
Having a bunch of very clearly set in stone rules being like covering this situation for this reason, bam, there you go. That covers
it's so
all the
weird
issues.
that we're playing an open sandbox like role-playing story generator, but we have rules like we're playing a fucking court of law.
D&D has rules
Makes no
too.
goddamn sense.
D&D has books and books and books.
Precedent law. Precedent law.
Can we cut this short a bit?
Yeah, sorry, Sacko, go.
Yeah, can we cut this a bit, because this has been
right,
going on. This is a
Sacko.
very
What do we got?
I still haven't spoken.
Yeah, let someone speak their last point and let no one respond. Okay, is that okay?
Yeah. Just let me talk.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry.
No. I'm talking about other people interrupting it, not about you. You're doing great.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, we talk about these rules set in stone, but we actually have like a candidate debate up right now where MSO has brought up like the rules of the past and people are giving opinions on it and stuff like that. Rules are fluid, like fabric things. We change them, we tear them apart, we sew them back together into new stuff. Rule 11 is something that's necessary for our culture at this time. Like, I think that Rule 11 has effectively saved us as a community for the future, because at some point we're going to get I have this feeling that just like on a long enough timeline, eventually a bright enough light is going to get shown on SS13. And when it does, they're going to look at like the major players. We are one of the major players. We are going to get looked at. When you get looked at and when you're associated with this community, how do you want this community seen? And how do you want to be seen for associating yourself with it? And that's been my whole deal. That's why I'm about like applying Rule 11 more strongly, and I'm very grateful for Sticky for getting it done in the first place. I've run with it like last term I ran with this opinion on Rule 11. I had to face a lot of flack for it. I had to face an amount of harassment for it. But now you look at this term, and suddenly everyone's for it. A lot of people are for it. And I'm not facing near the amount of, kind of like hostility or gotcha questioning that was around in terms before this one. So I think like you can really see the transformative movement that's happened as the line was drawn in the sand. And I know people think that it's like a little too vague, and I get that people don't want to be told that like what they're doing is a bad look, But that's the way I treat it too. I try not to focus on like, hey, you're being racist, because that's not a conversation that anybody's going to get into. Because we've told everyone that racism is bad, and everyone thinks that they are good, and that's just the way that things are. So at the end of the day, it's just about saying like, hey, this is not a good look for us, and here's the rule that I can point at to explain to you that it's not a good look for us. And it's going to matter how we look in the long run. When the next tide comes along and people are deciding where they want to spend our time at, the place that is going to give them the least to turn them away. And you can say like, oh, code and know this and know that. But at the end of the day, what Keith has been talking about with how new players are treated and how we go about that, and what we say and what we get away with, it all matters. Can we get rid of Rule 11 eventually? Absolutely. Once it's sunk in deep enough that we all agree that it's being a dick, and someone can be like, hey, you're being a dick, absolutely. But as has been pointed out by the other candidates here, it's such a slap fight to try and claim that some of the stuff you're saying is Rule 1 worthy, when like it's just so hard to stick, and people don't want to do that in the first place. And as a final note on this, some people seem to think that we already have like some pretty tight slur restrictions on stuff, and actually for the last 2 Headmin terms, the Headmans have remained like decidedly neutral or like context heavy on whether or not slurs are bigoted. And there hasn't been much concern for how that makes us look in like the greater community, or frankly just like to a normie. And I think that people need to be aware that we actually do have to make some statements of like, hey, look, when I say slur and you think of the words that fall into that category, it would probably be best if we just didn't say those. And that's actually something that I can like point to. Like, that will be a great day, but we're not quite there yet.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I could be convinced if if we're actually going harder on the Rule 11.
Hey,
I'm convinced with staying it around longer. Yeah, thank you, Goofball.
I have a campaign image to. This was actually a picture I took on the day that I argued for Rule 11. I've just posted in voice chat general. This is me physically dragging the Overton window.
What is an Overton window?
It's a you don't know what an Overton window is. I'm not gonna have this discussion.
Cursed political content, don't ask.
It's a concept of what the what's okay, like what's normalized.
Yeah, like what discussion is acceptable. For example, it's no longer okay to talk about genociding all Jewish people on this server, but it used to be, because that happened in Discord a lot, and then those people all got banned by Rule 11.
Man, isn't it just ironic, bro? It's all ironic, man.
Oh, sorry, it was all totally ironic. Totally ironic, bro.
I'm joking, unless I'm not.
Yeah.
None of you.
Yeah, that's just stupid.
I'm not actually going to ban you.
Right, now, sorry to interject here, but I think it's time for us to move on. We've clearly reached our apex.
I think, are we done with the whole debate? I think that was the last thing on the Sacko one.
No, I thought we had
I want to bring up mod suits really quick.
Oh god,
no.
Mod suits are coming out in 2021.
I will veto
Everyone
this.
Fuck everyone leave the voice chat. We're done. This is over. Bye.
Wait,
Make mod suits
question that is seriously important.
now.
I wanted to ask
Anarchy
something.
server, what are your opinions on this?
Yeah, ask me a question. Just anything but mod suits.
Wait. We have viewer questions.
I'm not a candidate, but so you know how you're talking about how new people would like view when they like go into TG? Just look at Terry sometimes.
Yes, I play on Terry.
Yeah, we're Terry mains, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind
I mean, all I gotta say about that is Terry's gotta stay off the hub, dude.
That's the behavior.
That cannot be someone's first impression of our server. It's really bad over there.
Look, it's fun to like play an arsehole character or whatever, but I feel like it really is not getting enforced at all. Like
our players aren't playing asshole characters; they're just being an asshole.
Yeah, I guess we gotta turn up Rule 11 and then see Terry do Sue stays.
What are we doing? I thought we were on mod suits.
No.
Hey,
mod suits.
Wait,
here's
a question I've got for the other.
Everyone in chat wants to talk about mod suits. Look at all these mod suits.
Sacko, I've got a question for the other candidates here. What what would you guys do in your head admin term to improve the experience of newer players? Because that's what's the lifeblood of the server, and I feel
That's
like
a
at the
good
moment,
question.
that's
That's a
being
good question.
justly
Thank
neglected.
you.
It's something similar. Yeah.
I want a new player server. Actually, just dedicated, straight up new player server.
Can we go top down? Arm first.
Okay,
Yeah, let's do it.
You're gonna
Thank you.
hate this
Thank you
answer.
so much. That's a good
You're gonna
question.
hate this
Think about
answer
that.
because I'm doing this answer whether or not I get elected. I believe that the main pull here is code changes. What I want to do is get rid of the verb panel, that giant thing that has a ton of commands on the top right of your screen.
MSO
We can
is gonna
actually
kill you.
remove this. And
I
I'm
believe
adding
I
a
should have gone
pause menu
first.
for more information.
I'm at the top.
and
I should have gone first.
I thought that the title screen was a huge. What the fuck did you do? You've AA sticky? Okay, anyway. Seriously, though. If we keep making the game more approachable and playable and easier to play, we're going to get new players. And you know what? I've learned through the graphs. Everything else barely matters. It's about pulling in those streamers and those tides.
Woo!
You know? It's crazy.
You want the YouTubers.
Make the game more playable for new players.
I've got a specific comment on that.
Let's go.
If I could just, from the bottom
Please
up real
go.
quick. So,
Be the bottom.
I've expressed a lot of interest in how we run seasonal events for a while, like that's been a big thing that I've only been a drop in the bucket of like the work that's been going on there. But I think at the end of the day, seasonal events are how we draw people's attention to the server. It's also how we provide opportunities for players to contribute to the code base by participating in events and learning beyond and stuff like that. So we've got a bit of an engine that we can run like every season that would hopefully, if we can get it all linked up and going correctly, would provide us like a way to engage like the greater SS13 community, because this isn't something that applies to tides. This is something that's like you would not believe the number of people who help. Hey, I just saw that you guys were at the top of the hub. Like, what's going on? Like, we definitely attract attention, and we can definitely like grow our community that way. And then in regards to streamers, YouTubers, content creators, just like a small like circle back on Rule 11. People who put hard work into things want to show them to other people because it makes them feel good or because they're using it to like better themselves on a professional level. So at the end of the day, I think that it's very worth taking steps to smooth out rough edges so that we can see to it that people who are content creators like want to engage us. And this goes beyond just like YouTube videos and things like that. This also goes in regards to like coding work. There are people who put a lot of work into code and they don't feel comfortable showing other people this project. Like
when it comes to attracting streamers like this, if we had some kind of Twitch integration, actually, that would be a good first step.
Yeah, well, there's been an open statement that VTubers could stream TG Station, but nobody's acted on that yet. Nobody's taken advantage of it.
Wobbly's working on it.
Wait,
Wobbly is working on it.
Funny that
Wobbly
you
hasn't
say
pulled the trigger on it yet.
I was trying
Well,
to
I've
say.
actually got some. Go ahead.
Wobbly
No,
needs
no,
to get on that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I've got some interesting ideas for how we could do Twitch integration with TG Station. Ideally, the Twitch client is going to need to it's going to need to show fake names for people. Like, you cannot be streaming TG Station and have the correct names in for folks. Obviously, somebody could still connect and be like, oh, we'd also need to hide the server name. Obviously, somebody could, figure out what the server is and who people are if they tried hard enough. But having that layer of abstraction means if somebody shows up and starts trying to do some stream sniping bullshit, we'll know immediately.
Well, I mean,
if you allow people to link in their Twitch accounts, we can give them some prizes or whatever for watching the stream. We could let Twitch viewers interact with events in the event subsystem.
Would be cool.
Throw some bits at your favorite spaceman.
Oh damn, yeah, 10,000
Exactly.
bits for meteors. This would be this stuff is cool. And I think but here's the problem. I cannot tell a single person in my real life about this video game because you fuckers won't stop saying the N-word every 5 minutes. That's
Yeah,
the
we
real.
need to
I
make
fully
it
agree. I
less-
fully agree.
Yeah.
Literally, I've played this game for nearly a decade, and I have not introduced a single human fucking being I know to this game, because the moment they walk in and see what I've been a part of, they're going to think I'm an insane Nazi. So this is the real core problem with the server.
That's
Or
a really good point,
schizophrenic.
actually. How are new players meant to come into our community if a new player comes in and you get 10 guys like, aha, N-word?
Does
Like-
anybody remember when Kraken
Whoever just
streamed
pinged me to
Space
complain
Station
about
13?
VTubers,
and
I
then
don't
they-
care about VTubers. I
Goofball!
care about streamers.
Goofball! I was talking. Anyway,
Sorry, people are complaining about
Goon
VTubers
Station-
at me, okay?
Yes,
I
thank
don't
you.
know
listening
anything
when
about
people
these
tell you to
goddamn
shut up?
VTubers.
We-
Anyway,
Fuck you too.
Hey,
As
the
I was
No,
biggest
saying,
just shut up.
The biggest VTuber has just asked you
Tomato
to stop
set up
talking.
a server and they chose Goon over us.
Yeah,
And
let's
I was
do.
like, because Goon
Do you
is
have a
much more
VTuber
open.
rig? I thought I saw
Yeah,
something. Was that
Goon has
fake?
opened the door
Is
for
that-
streamers, and that's something we should consider for the future of our.
Open it up.
It's really too
Goon
early at the moment
runs
to consider
Goon
Twitch streamers.
runs actual literal streamer servers. Like
We are
they have
physically-
servers that are hosted for their streamers that are
Yeah.
only accessible to the streamers and the people who
That's
are like
interesting.
streaming.
We are physically not able to exist on Twitch as a platform while we're
Yeah,
still
100%.
using the N-word the way we are at the moment.
It's I would
Yeah,
feel
really.
uncomfortable putting our server out there if people go on Twitch. They they watch some Twitch streamers. They're like, hell yeah, I want to join the server. They join the server as just a bunch of people circle jerking over like the N word or like
I
a
don't
bunch
think
of other
the
slurs.
L word would be permissible on Twitch as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, like at the end of the day,
The L word is just the N word with the
Ye-
N changed to an L, so no, it wouldn't be allowed on
Yeah,
Twitch.
I don't think.
there's no way we can do a huge advertisement of the server in the current state, and I would not feel comfortable myself as a head admin putting the server out if people are saying stuff like slurs, because then obviously my name will be associated with it, and I want nothing to do if that's like what people are coming into, because I feel like you would
You
leave a
should
bad
just
impression.
steal Goon's rule. Just take Goon's rule, full sale. Fuck it,
But
there
what-
you go.
Yeah, but wait,
This is
it's the thing,
Really-
2021.
it's
and
not
Really,
a rule.
with how
integration
people are
of
taking a
VTuber.
Rule 11, I think it might be in the
Go,
on the
you get
horizon,
over it.
right?
They got over cloning getting removed. They got over intents getting removed.
You
Just
can take our
fucking go all
cloning.
in.
No, we
You
still
can take
want
our stone
cloning.
gloves, but you will never take our slurs.
Are you the guy that removed the singularity?
We're gonna end it soon, Wobbly. We're gonna end it really, really soon. Okay, don't worry.
Like, yeah.
I mean, it's
I'm
not that many people who use the N-word. This
This
is just
is like the last
Terry.
question.
You have Thomas Dankforth who keeps using the N-word,
You have your
and Rick
Terry.
Carr maybe.
Terry has
But
used the N-word.
there's
more
not many
times
people who use it. You know.
than every other server combined, like triple. Like
Okay.
it's literally that.
Anything else?
frequent.
Let's get off the N word again, okay? We did the N word.
We did the N-word. Yeah, you're right.
Really want to
Sorry,
integrate the game with Twitch.
We're
There are
talking about new. We were talking about new players. Now we're on the N word
Yes,
again.
okay,
Let-
anyway,
sorry.
I'm also on Twitch. You know
It's
what's
related.
blocking you from getting to Twitch? Oh.
We like segued into the N word kind of smoothly, but let's get back. Anyone get
I did have something separate for new players.
anything? Anyone have new anything else on like how to get new players in?
New
Okay.
player server. Dedicated, can only connect if you have under 100 hours. Otherwise,
Okay.
just connect to it. It's automatically sends you to Sybil or Basil.
Maybe.
Or Terry
Yeah.
if you're pinging better on Terry.
Hey, could I quickly please just
How do you
interject
learn
and
from our
say-
experienced players then?
Yeah, I feel like having
I
a new
wanna
player
join the
server
noob
creates a
server.
class server. It just creates a class system even. So now you've got all these based main players who are there, doing whatever the fuck they do.
What?
And you've got the
No,
server
no.
of new
A
players who have
dedicated
no
new
idea
player
what's
server
going
is
on.
like a time-tested, proven thing. MMOs
We-
do this all the time.
We
How
saw it
to-
happen in Event Hall. It was a garbage fire. Like
Yeah, like,
Fuzzy Logic made his name on taming it, and people like called each other like event haulers as like
I made
an
my name
insult
there
for
too.
like months.
I played. I
Well,
started
event,
off at
event
Hall,
Hall
and it
was
wasn't that nice.
specifically that was the Seth
If you-
type though, right?
Yeah,
if you-
Seth's YouTuber population is like fucking assholes.
Who cares?
What did you
A lot of
expect
them
just
there?
have-
stayed. A lot of them
So-
stayed and integrated. It
Yeah, they
worked.
did. Like for
They did a
example,
great job.
I integrate, but the issue I have is a new player server. It does create a class system because you've got the e-haulers who are like their own separate group of people, and then you've got like the main players, and they clash on things. They clash. There's definitely a
Ah,
conflict.
Lucas, where do you play now?
Terry.
No, you just
Yeah,
don't.
so you integrated.
You just don't
It
let
worked.
people keep connecting to the new server after they have
um,
100 hours.
I
The
Yeah,
only
want to
just
reason
have
stay
mentors
though.
and players with under 100 hours on there, right?
Sticky, I may have it integrated, but I know a lot of people who didn't.
Yeah, and
Which
that's
is why-
fine. Like we don't expect to have 100%. Like, look, you are a great example of a Seth Tider who ended up being a really valuable member of the community. There are like a solid 20-30% of that group who would only have ever been shitters. There's another 20-30% that may drop out because I don't know, they lost their event hall. But honestly, like the 50% that remain and stayed and carried on playing, like I think is probably what we can expect to kind of get from a crowd that big.
I mean, look, I get your point, but I just personally, my take on this is it's not going to change. I don't think a new player server will be a good idea because I feel like a lot of the learning does come from more experienced players who pass down the knowledge. I know with every generation of new
what
player,
about-
the
Yeah, and
knowledge
they
gets
can start
better.
picking up that
integration's
knowledge after
important.
they're forced onto the main servers
Yeah,
because
so
you're
how
only going to
about-
be able to be there for like 100 hours.
Here's an
Yeah,
idea. How about everyone with under 500 hours is allowed to play on that server? Once you're over 500 hours, you have to apply to play on the server, kind of in like a mentor where you're going there with the expectation of playing with new players. And the privilege you have is that you're knowledgeable and you're not just going to abuse that knowledge to be shit to them, but you're actually going to help them learn the game a bit.
That
How's
sounds
that?
really fresh and
Explain it,
cool.
bro.
I'm actually 1,000%
500 hours is a
Sticky just
lot. I
suggested.
feel like
300 hours,
is like the-
arbitrary number. I think 200 or 300. 100 is probably quite
I
low.
think
but
Okay,
should-
yeah, that works.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
think
Okay,
it
kinda
allows
cool.
more
we're in
experienced
agreement
players to
here,
go on
or
the train.
We
do you have
did it.
anything more?
We solved racism. Sorry, different thing.
Solved racism, solved new players.
I just said. Sorry, hang on. Don't worry.
New players are amazing, and we should encourage them more. We
Yes.
should definitely teach
Yeah.
them. We should definitely like make A-helps more accessible to them and less scary. Because
Yeah,
new players
A-helps
do an A-help because
are
they're scared.
daunting, right? You don't. You're like, oh man,
Yeah. Like
I
it's
don't
a
know.
scary thing, especially if you're on a
I
server.
don't know if
with
I've
people
done something bad.
like
or-
Terry, where like there's a culture of don't A-help, which isn't cool for new players because they get scared. It's a big scary button. The boink is a big scary sound.
Yeah, I
Realistically
know.
speaking,
Yeah.
you just don't want to do
Hey,
it because
got a
it's
minute?
terrifying. Yeah, literally, it's just terrifying. It genuinely is terrifying, and we need to somehow break down this wall and make it more accessible and more friendly, so they're able to ask for more help and able to just realize that the admins are there to help, and they're not just there as this omnipotent force to ban you when you do something wrong. There's a
They
huge
kind of
divide.
seem like that.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. There's
Yeah,
a
'cause
huge
if
player
you-
admin divide.
If you're a new player, you're not going to get banned, really. If you're in good faith, like
True.
acting in good faith, you're just going to get a warning, right?
It's easy to say that as an admin, as a player with lots of hours, but like from a perspective of a new player, it's just scary, man. Like
It's scary.
know,
It's scary,
yeah.
but you don't get banned, and I'm
Yeah,
very
we need
nice
to
to anyone who's
we need
got
to
under
come
100
in
hours.
like as a better. We need to have something to.
Yeah.
Come
I
off
think
as
we
under-
settled. I think we landed on a cool way to deal with the next wave of people we get. That we will get by removing the N-word and Twitch streaming. There we go. I think we're all in incredible agreement. No one disagrees. We've solved SS13.
Yeah.
Are we wrapping up? Next
And
question?
I love agreement because it means no matter
Let's
who
do it.
wins, I get what I want.
Who
I
won?
love
All right, so
Who won?
scub or no scub? Where do we stand?
I
Oh,
wanted
fuck.
to say
Yeah,
something
Scub,
about my
let's go
new
down the
player
line of
experience.
Scub.
Wait, no. Viewers
regards
may
to-
have questions.
Good point.
In-
What do you
In
got?
regards to the yeah, well,
Viewer questions?
oh, perhaps you could, I don't know, if you want to make admin, if you don't want A-helps to be more accessible, why not make some kind of like help chat channel in game or something, you know, like a chat tab only for helping, or you know, share like all in-game questions or something, you know. You'll have to ask 1,000 things. Look, I played
Basically-
700 hours in this game, so I only saw people ban and I only A-helped to report disgusting behavior from others, or you know,
You never asked for help?
no,
It's called a
perhaps
help.
2 times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's called a
you know.
help.
It's called a help, but the vast majority of us know that you're basically calling the cops, and when you call the cops, there's a 50-50 chance you get help or you get shot.
Exactly.
I mean, if you need a hand with something, I've seen enough A helps with people saying, "How do I do this thing?" or "This doesn't feel like it's working properly." I think we should encourage people to ask for help like that. But also, we did talk about the
Yeah.
TOOC for MRP earlier, so I feel like that is.
We had
kind
a
of
lot of
covered
that on
already.
Basil actually. Like people just like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like asking wiki questions. And I'm like, and I just put it through Google on the wiki, and I'm like, here it is, dude.
Reading the wikis for noobs.
Wow.
Ask
Oh,
the
wiki.
admins.
In that
I
regard,
mean,
what do you
you
guys
are
think
right with
about
that.
allowing just this Discord meta communications for new people? And I mean, if you have a mentor role or something, can I on voice chat, please, for the love of God, explain how to set up the supermarket or something? You know, instead of typing half a book 1 billion times to every new player in.
No.
I
No,
appreciate where the
unfortunately,
sentiment is coming from, but it sets a
How
bad
do I
precedent.
set up?
it's too
Yeah, I
easily
suppose.
abused. I'm sorry. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
really
I
there's no
suppose.
logging for voice chat. No one's going to go through audio logs. It just makes metacomming too easy. The opportunity threat is there.
Well, if we had in-game voice chat, we could log it.
No, well, maybe eventually. Anyway,
Wait, let me ask
This
this:
is
who would
Foxine.
be insane enough to sift through all the audio logs for that sort of stuff?
I mean, I would listen to the audio logs.
Yeah,
If you have a timestamp that you know you're supposed to be looking
say
for,
that
you
now.
can just look through that.
Just
Like,
Few
for,
videos could be made.
I'm
as well.
actually
compressing the
buying.
stored audio is not a problem. Opus
No.
Codex for OGG
This seems
is
like
really
a
fucking good.
tangent. Like,
Yeah,
do
this
we,
is a tangent. Can we focus on the?
Yeah.
do we want to anything more on new players, or are we done?
We're done with this. We've all reached a nice conclusion.
Yeah,
You should only be allowed to
we
play
nailed
Plasma
it.
Man.
good debate, guys.
Yay!
Everyone, who won? Everyone.
Oh, Goof 2021.
Goof
Please.
2021.
Touch
Official
grass.
endorsement from the whoever that was. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sacko?
What's the next
Official
topic?
endorsement from Sacko.
Yes.
I guess we were open to questions now. I think we've finished with the topics, but if anyone wants to ask a question, we're still all
Yeah.
around.
Very civilly and nicely.
Let's do. Yeah. Let's do some audience questions. If audiences want to unmute and ask questions, yeah.
I've got a question.
Cool.
What's your favorite food?
Probably.
I like
honestly,
lasagna.
spaghetti. Yeah.
Maybe.
It's kind of getting late. Could we
Yeah, maybe each audience.
You
If
can
you want to
leave.
ask a question.
Yeah, no. Hold on.
If you want to leave,
Yeah.
you can. Right?
Yeah, you can leave.
Yeah, anyone can leave, right?
Yes, cede your territory to me.
I'll be here answering
Can I ask
questions
a
all night.
question to Arm?
If you want to ask, if you want to answer audience questions,
Only
do
if
it.
I
If you
like
want
your
to sleep,
question. Okay, go.
go.
All right.
Go sleep. Yeah.
I'm gonna ask
right?
a question that Arm's not gonna like. It's about his rule removal policies.
Yeah.
And this isn't gonna be about the Rule 1, Rule 11 part, but rather
you.
about Silicon policy.
Yeah.
Because as someone who's actually not afraid to say I play Silicon, I feel
I
like
do too, I
Silicon's
like it.
policy's extensive list is kind of super essential as it is now. Primarily because of the thing that I always like to claim, which is common sense isn't common. And without like this extensive list that you can point to, you're bound to get really like shitty situations that aren't easy to resolve. And this is important because, especially for AI, you have control over the entire system.
Honestly, it falls down into two questions an admin has to ask themselves on whether something an AI did was best for the round and actually was in good faith following their laws. I like keeping it as an open thing because it allows people to do a lot of fun stuff with their AIs and make them who they are. Because depending on how you interpret laws, as long as you're not interpreting it in like shitty ways, aka 90% of Paladin interpretations, then you can actually make your own character. Paladin lost it.
Yeah, it's actually only one question. Over here referencing Rule 0. God damn it. Who do you think you are?
Is it funny?
Is what
May I
funny?
ask a question?
And the secret rule. It just has to contribute to the round. It has to be funny. It has to have substance if it's done
You got
maliciously.
Silicon opinions?
Yo, someone wanted to ask a question. Let them speak.
I wrote the secret rule just to take credit for something else.
I don't know. I feel like